So it is Zach and Kirk from the Podcast Discovery Show here, and we are now the interviewers for Pod 6, where we are talking to other Podfix shows to try and learn more about them.
We have 6 very hard-hitting questions to ask our friends over across the pond about their show.
And today we are joined by Giles and Robbie from the Filmmakers Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Absolute pleasure, boys. And across the pond, I always like that little phrase.
Such a nice expression.
Isn't it? Because, like, across the pond. Imagine if
it
you
makes it seem like we're closer than we actually
We're so
are.
neighborly, yeah.
just took a stone.
It's like, hiya, neighbor. We're just across the pond.
Does it go the other way too? Are we across the pond from you too? Or is that...
Yeah.
I suppose so.
place?
Yeah. No, we use that expression as well. So, yeah, the same would apply.
It's just a funny thing, isn't it? Because it's not a pond.
No,
If it's a pond, it's a serious one.
Wait, it's not...
It's not. What? Surely it's just a little pond. I'll see you in a
we're
minute.
gonna- We'll invest in a map so Kirk can see the size of this pond that is
Yes.
I did
separating us.
fail geography.
To you guys, is like Britain tiny? Is the UK just like this tiny little place that a load of shit happens that is supposed to be good? And you're not just like, but it's like tiny. It's like, how does all this stuff come out of this place? Is that what it feels like to you?
Sometimes kind of.
In
mainly
my
just-
brain, it feels big. And then you look at it on a map and you're like, oh, it's not that big.
Yeah, but I've also read some
But
stuff
there's so
about-
much stuff going on, it feels big.
Yeah.
In my brain, it feels bigger.
That's,
I feel
that's
like
the
maps
wool
also
over your
are-
eyes there. That's the
Absolutely.
trivia.
Yeah.
So many years. Great Britain, we call it. The United
Yeah.
Kingdom.
It's tiny. Biggest
Yeah.
con in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. We are tiny here. We're all very small people. So that's why it works. We're all like really
Hey, I would
small.
fit in finally somewhere.
Me. So anyway, was that the first question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
first question.
That was it.
Is it a pond or not?
Is it a pond? We have it written right here, so I'll just check that off.
And we
Told you they were hard-hitting
all
questions.
agreed it is 100% a pond. Who do you think
So-
first coined that phrase, by the way? A pond. Isn't that
I don't
interesting?
know. Well, it's, is
don't know.
pond more of a British word, maybe?
It feels like a British word. Do you use pond in any other sentence apart from going across to Britain?
Definitely
No, we use it.
pretty often.
Yeah.
So think
Okay.
really small lake. They'll pepper it in, you know?
Really small lake. I love this. This is getting better. And this is a podcast about lake. Welcome to
Moving on.
Welcome to Lake Talk.
So actually, it's a great segue into the next question, which is actually about lakes. So it really just plays out.
Yeah. Well, I'm from near the Lake District, which is a lovely little glorious area in England, in the north of England. And I'm very close to that. I used to go walking there as a child. There's a really small Alan Partridge-esque link to get from ponds to lakes. So there you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank
so
you.
We noticed that you have, I think, 7 listed hosts for your show. And
Sure.
it basically, we've covered it on our show before, and
Yeah.
we've heard you guys and different elements and different people doing different interviews. And we wanted to just kind of understand, how did all of you guys kind of come together for one podcast, and what made you want to try and get into the podcasting world from kind of that filmmaking background?
Well, that was it. I think because we are all filmmakers, we're all working quite a lot of the time. So it's a case of who is free. Now, I posted it. It was kind of when I first started thinking about, let's do a podcast, I wanted to bring other filmmakers on with me because I was scared of doing it on my own, I think. And you just kind of freaked out by that whole thing. So I brought on some other filmmakers. Now, during that time, some of them were busy and doing other jobs. And in fact, the original 4 have never done a podcast together in the same way, ever. But and then it just grew. We just started finding other hosts, co-hosts, people who were really good guests. In the end, I was like, well, let's bring them on to co-host other episodes, or they'd bring friends. They'd produced another film. So it's like, it made sense to bring them in the room to co-host. And then eventually some carried on co-hosting. So I'm pretty much the stalwart. I think I have been in every episode.
Yeah,
It's
Giles is very much the man behind the curtain.
it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like a secret green curtain. I am the man.
Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yeah, because for example, I only joined about a year and a half ago, but I've been sort of helping to produce and edit the show since then as well.
Robbie sent me a message. Was it on Twitter or an email and said, "Hey,
Yeah,
I
something like
love
that.
your show. It's the best in the world. Can I come and be on it? I'm a filmmaker as well." And absolutely, yeah, why not? It's a great editor and producer, and now he co-hosts with me.
But it's quite a small industry as well in the UK. Like a lot of people tend to know each other, so it is helpful having that different hosts we can call on depending on who's free.
Yeah, absolutely. And mixing it up as well. So it started off because I wanted to talk about the films I was making and the films the guests I was having on were making. And because when I started out being a filmmaker, there wasn't many podcasts, if any really, and certainly not for the British market, that appealed to me and said, this is how to make a movie. So I said, well, why don't I have my own? There was plenty in the US, which I loved. And I thought, why don't I do one in the UK? And that's how it started. And it's grown into 179 episodes as we speak. So many, positive reviews and all that kind of stuff. It just grew and grew and grew and became this thing that we just carried on doing and do every week now, every Tuesday. And we go in depth about how we make films and how our guests make their films. And we've had some huge guests on,
Absolutely.
Massive. And it's been amazing for us to sit and talk to these people for us because it's been beneficial and we learn from it. But we know that our audience, our listeners love it too because they learn from these amazing people who have made Oscar-winning films. Directors, producers, cinematographers, editors, screenwriters, all these people, even actors. And that's an amazing place for us to be, that we can pretty much email most of these people now and go, hey, here's a new script. Would you mind reading it? Or, look, I've just seen your latest work, and they'll respond, and you've got that connection. And like Robbie says, it's a very small industry in the UK in a way. If you're making movies, you know other people who are making movies, and we wanted to bridge that gap between people who hadn't made movies or people who are trying to go from their first to second, third, fourth, and how they actually do that, how they go about it. And we give them the answers, or as much as we possibly can, of the best way to go about making a movie.
That's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely something that I've always had a personal passion for filmmaking in general, and not that I've really done any. I actually love movies, and so it was one that when we had these conversations about when or like which shows to talk about, as soon as we saw your show, we were like, okay, yeah, we got to talk about this one.
Yeah, and because we don't know a lot about you guys yet, so we wanted to get to know you more, become best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we can send each other scripts as well.
Yeah, you can I will read a script anytime. I don't know if the advice is going to help you at all, but I'll read it and I'll send it to you.
Absolutely, please. Yeah. So that was why we wanted to set it up, to help other filmmakers, to help ourselves, and to talk about our projects. And that's exactly what we do. So if you're a filmmaker or you want to get into filmmaking, it's the podcast for you. It's really in depth. We literally talk about how you write a script, how you behave on set, how you work with a director or producer, or how you work with actors,
how you get finance for your film.
Really important. How you distribute your movie, all that sort of stuff. We go into depth about it, and we talk about
There's a lot of moving parts, and I can't imagine, being an indie filmmaker that's, you don't have a department that does every single thing. You've got to try to do everything yourself. I can imagine it's got to be a lot of things that you have to work out. And
a lot of different hats you got to wear. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, an incredible resource you guys are providing because they can kind of see all these different pieces moving.
Yes. Yeah, so true. Yeah. And we've had, like I say, people who've worked on massive films. So they've had like hundreds of people working around them. Then we've had a guy who came on who made a movie on his own. It's done really, really well. And he made it, one of the reasons he made it was inspired by our podcast. And I love that. That to me
was Outback Mike.
Yeah, Outback Mike.
He made it in the Australian outback in the bush, like alone. It's a crazy episode. You should check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And his film's incredible.
Which episode is it?
It's Mike Atkinson. I can't remember. So I'll look up the number for you while Robbie pretends to carry on talking.
Let's do that. Sure. Yeah, it's an incredible story about how he literally just went out into the Australian outback to make a film. And he, crazy stories of him having to charge batteries at night using a portable generator.
Solar panel as well, wasn't
it?
whilst
sort of kind of almost living off the land.
He was really out there.
Yeah, he was doing a proper kind of survivalist thing.
Do you know what? We didn't give it a number. But it was probably episode somewhere around the hundreds where we stopped giving them numbers. So it's called How to Make a Film on Your Own with No Crew, Surviving the Outback with director Mike Atkinson. There you go. That's the episode. But look, if you do on our website, thefilmmakerspodcast.com, all you have to do is put in someone's name or put in director or put in screenwriter in the box, and that episode or episodes about directing or screenwriting will come up. So if you go there and type in Mike Atkinson or How to Make a Film on Your Own, the episode will come up. We got that done very recently because people were asking and were missing episodes that we'd done. When you've done 177, there's so many in the middle or whatever the beginning that people just don't find. So we started to do this search bar trick. So there you go.
Yeah, I see Kirk's wheels turning because we have a similar issue. And we also had an issue of before we started actually naming our episodes after the show we were covering, we would pick a random non sequitur phrase that we thought was funny from the episode.
That must make it funny to try and find them later on.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
First of all, I thought some of them were funny. Is it helpful when searching? No, it sure is not.
No.
It is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So we didn't not only stop numbering, but we also made stupid names. And it's a fairly serialized show where you need to listen to the episode before so you know what the recommendation is for that episode that you're listening to. So when I want to make an archive, it is going to be a nightmare. I don't know what to do.
So I mean, I guess just a bonus tip for everybody: make your shows so that their title makes sense and people can track what it's about. It's very helpful.
So I've got a very hard-hitting question. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no, and why or why not?
So this might be a bit controversial, but I'm pro pineapple on pizza. I'm a pro pineappler. Yeah, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me, even though I know it's sort of wrong. So, but I guess the why would have to be, I think it's a classic combo, ham and pineapple. But I know Giles here won't agree for various reasons.
So from my side of it, I am pro pineapple on pizza, but my pizza has to be vegan. So the cheese has to be vegan cheese. There's certainly no ham anywhere near it. But yeah, I've started literally in the last maybe 6 months pushing.
Right, so you're a recent convert.
I'm a
to
recent
pineapple.
convert for pushing pineapple on pizza.
You're a pineapple pusher.
I am. Now I'm a pineapple pusher. I will push that pineapple all the way up the hill.
I think that carries a 3-year sentence, doesn't it?
In some countries.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not across
that's
the
so
pond.
serious. You
It
better
is.
watch out.
It's serious, right? Yeah.
I mean, when we first started recording, I thought we could be friends, but maybe not. I don't know.
Are you
don't
not?
like pineapple on pizza?
I'm just kidding. I don't have a preference. I really don't care. I just know some people have very strong feelings about it.
I never really got why. Like, I never understood the.
I don't believe in food rules. I think that all food can be whatever you want it
That's
to
a
be.
hot take.
As
It's
long
just
as
I
it's
don't believe in
democratic, yeah.
food rules.
No food rules here.
no food rules here.
All etiquette kind of banned.
It's like Outback. No rules, just right.
That's something
Yeah.
like Outback.
That sounds perfect for me. Yeah. But as long as, there's no meat or dairy involved, then all food rules apply.
Oh, yeah. The opposite of no food rules.
Yes.
There are rigid food rules.
Rigid food rules. Sadly.
But I feel like vegan pizzas have come a long way. I feel like
Yes.
they're making serious strides now.
Massive. When I first went vegan, the pizzas it was a struggle. And I think it was a good few years before I was able to enjoy pizza again. And now you can get quality pizzas. And in fact, I brought one here to
Yeah.
Robbie's
We're
today.
going to have one later.
Yeah, it's Pizza Express,
Yeah.
Gardenera. They're fantastic.
Does it have pineapple on it?
I don't think it does.
This one doesn't, sadly. The vegans haven't worked out to that they can actually put the pineapple on vegan cheese yet. I have to do it myself. And it's never as good because it's far too sweet. Yeah.
But I've had that one before in the Pizza Express restaurant, and it is good. So yeah, I'm kind of excited now.
Sponsored by Pizza Express.
I know. Can we get some loot from Pizza Express for
and
this?
some pineapple, please. Yeah, if you don't
Yeah, we'll
mind.
have to let the guys know to definitely tag them on the tweet when this goes out, and we can hopefully get you guys a new sponsor.
Please, yes, please. And you guys don't mind a bit of pineapple on your pizza by the sounds of it.
No, I do not. I like it.
I eat whatever's in front of me.
He wasn't kidding about the food rules.
No
He doesn't
food
care.
rules.
Really?
Put whatever you want on the pizza. He's going to eat it.
That's amazing. Amazing. Good for you. Good for you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great question. It's a great question. All our listeners have been dying to know that
I know.
question.
Yeah.
So,
Finally.
That's what we're here
finally.
for.
The vault is
Yeah,
open.
now you'll stop getting the constant emails. Pineapple,
We can
yes or no?
rest safely.
Subject line, just constant.
Yeah. By the way, it's raining so hard here that Robbie's conservatory is almost like, it looks like it's going to come through.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I reckon that the pond between us, if it keeps raining like this, will just
It's going to be submerged.
it will be submerged. This little tiny island will be submerged.
Yeah.
It's going to turn into a lake.
It
Yeah,
will.
we'd be,
It will.
But Giles, you're not supposed to perpetuate the stereotype that all British people live in castles. Because I mean, the way you said conservatory makes it sound like we're living in some grand mansion.
It's not a castle, though, is
No,
it? It's
no,
like a
it's
little
not.
add-on to the back
Yeah,
of the
it
house.
is.
oh man,
Dang it, you ruined my
know.
image.
I literally was. I was like, my entire mental image of what was happening right now is you two in a castle, and there was no one in it except for you two. And it's like, that's just general, just British living. You know, living in a castle.
I do happen to have a cup of tea though with me, so that's very British. There is that.
Yeah, there you go.
But we were filming in a castle very recently, which was great for our Arthur and Merlin film. And we did film in an actual castle. And when it rained,
They do exist.
They do exist. And there's about 7 of them in Wales.
Oh, yeah.
And we had an amazing one in Wales, which is part of Great Britain. Well, I suppose part of the United Kingdom, really.
That's right.
Both.
Yeah.
It's a mixture
Well,
of words. There's no
for the
reason,
time being.
For the time being, there's no need to have all these
until
words.
everything else falls apart, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we descend into a kind of Mad Max-esque
Which
kind
we
of
will
anarchy.
very soon. But every day it rained when we're in Wales. And one of, pretty much all the rooms in this castle got flooded because it's a castle. It's not insulated. They didn't understand what walls really were and just sort of stuck up, stones.
Yeah, very simple kind of mechanics.
Yeah,
At the
at the
time.
time.
Let's just build with the stone here and we'll hope for the best.
But we did film in a castle and it was incredible and amazing to actually be in a castle. As a kid, that was a dream. So talking of castles, I had cups of tea in that castle constantly, but I did get wet. So it was a very British situation I was living in.
That does
for a
sound
while.
amazing.
So you guys have interviewed some amazing people on your show, but is there a holy grail of interviews that you have always kind of like thought about? Like, what if, maybe, who is that interview that you just would love to have on the show?
So I would love to have Danny Boyle, the director of Train Spotting and so many other amazing
Slumdog
movies.
Millionaire,
Slumdog
Sunshine.
Millionaire. Oh, God, the list goes on.
28
and on.
days later?
28 days
Oh, yeah,
later.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely. He's amazing. So he's someone I've been pushing for because we've had Mark Strong, the actor, on the podcast who knows Danny. I've been pushing for a while. I've been saying, Mark, can you get Danny on? And I even got as far as meeting Danny and having a chat with him. And he was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, man, I'll come on. Yeah, let's do it. No problem. And then he said, just get in touch with my agent. Get in touch with my agent and we'll sort it out. No worries. We'll do it. We'll do it. And then his agent just went, no.
No.
How would Danny do this? But we're going to.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. We were like, but Danny said, yeah. Danny was like, yeah, no problem. So we're going to keep knocking on that door. I've now got another angle. I'm just going to keep knocking. And eventually he's someone I want. I want Spielberg. I want Nolan.
Wow.
I'm aiming high,
Yeah.
baby.
Edgar Wright would be good.
Oh, yeah.
Edgar Wright would be great. People like that for us. It's people who the audience can connect with. Because if they're too big, it's kind of out of, you know what I mean? It's one of those, it's like, well, Christopher Nolan coming on would be amazing. But at the same time, he makes movies that are 200 million. You know, how do you connect with that when you're trying to make a movie in the rain, in a castle, with a cup
He
of
himself
tea?
is a genre now.
Yes, a Christopher Nolan
Pretty
genre.
much.
Yeah. So him for me, those people would be amazing. Robbie, who have you got up your sleeve?
I'm not sure. I would be keen because I always like it when we have other people that aren't just directors on, like, so, cinematographers and editors. Like, I'd love someone like Darius Konji or.
Make up another name. Go on, Robbie.
he's the cinematographer on Seven and City of Lost Children and
amazing. Wally Pfister, another one we'd love to have on.
Yeah. Some amazing, but I what's great about the filmmaking process is that there's all these different disciplines, and each one is in its own right a kind of amazingly sort of position where there's a whole world to that role, and you can spend a lifetime studying it, and then that's just one part of this bigger machine. So yeah, definitely it'd be great to interview like as many different people in different roles as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certain actors, James McAvoy's one I've been wanting to get on. I like actors who are very proactive and also get involved and produce their own stuff as well. But yeah, our list goes, the editors we've had on from Star Wars Rogue One, from Gravity.
Colin Gowdy,
Mark Sanger from Gravity won an Oscar for his work on that. And we've had those people on who really go in depth about how they edit a film. And that's fascinating for anyone, I feel, for filmmakers especially. And yes, we haven't had as many cinematographers as we'd like. They're less up for speaking sometimes. They're not the spokesperson often.
That's true. Yeah.
So they tend not
to be the behind the scenes kind of person.
Yeah.
But also a director cinematographer as well, like Alfonso Cuarón. Obviously, he shot Roma. So yeah, or
That's
just
a beautiful movie.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously, we have a lot of people who are either directors and producers, or actors and writers, or actors and producers, and yeah, it's always nice when people can talk about like a dual role, or having to wear those different hats for different things.
Yep.
Even at the studio level, you get that.
Totally. Yeah, we've had some amazing screenwriters on, like Kirsty Wilson Cairns, who wrote 1917.
Oh, she was lovely.
And she was so much fun as well to have on.
It's a real riot, that episode.
It really is a fun episode as well. We've had Beckham Woods, who wrote A Quiet Place. They've been on. We've had David Koepp, who wrote Jurassic Park. So and Mission Impossible 5, right? Yeah. So we've
had Neil Marshall, who obviously great British horror director.
Yeah, Dog Soldiers and Hellboy recently, and we we talked.
How do you get all these people? Like just connections, people that know people that know people.
Yeah, it's people that know people that know people. And I think because I've been in the business a long time as well, and I just ask. I'll send an email, or the recent people we've had on, I just tweet it. Just like, hey, would you like to come on? And because we're doing well, the podcast is, we've had the big guests, and we've had, lots of sort of interest in it. Therefore, it's much easier to say, you just drop a few names, and they go, oh, well, if they've been on.
Yeah.
And at first it was people I knew, Mark Strong I know, or Rupert Graves I know, or some of the Sam Miller, who directed I May Destroy You recently.
Oh yeah, and Luther he did as well.
Yeah, Luther.
That's a really good early episode.
It is.
Sam Miller one.
Yeah. So because of that, and then PR companies got in touch, because we were sort of the number one filmmaking podcast in the UK. It meant PR companies were knocking on our door saying, hey, would you like to interview whoever, and that's how we got people like Fernando Meirelles, who did Two Popes recently, and
Jim Cummings,
yeah, Peter Del Vecchio, who did Frozen 1 and 2, things like that. So it makes it easier for us, because then we go, yes, we'd love to have these people come on our podcast to talk about how they made their films, because for us, we want to talk to them as well. Todd Garner was someone that I think we just contacted on Twitter. I think I just sent him a tweet and said, hello, mate. One of us did anyway. And they said, yeah, he was like, yeah, I'd love to come on. So.
And David Koepp, we got to talk about his amazing novel, Cold Storage, which came out. And we got to talk about, the fact, him being a novelist versus him being a screenwriter. And so, it branches out into loads of different areas.
We're just lucky. We're lucky that we get to talk to indie filmmakers, something we love as well. But our passion of filmmaking is easy for us to just have those conversations, because we love to talk about filmmaking and
it's evident, and that's what makes it kind of infectious. It makes once you hear someone else that's passionate about it, it kind of makes you get excited about something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know.
So we've got
go on.
the number one movie podcast. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was saying I've always wanted to be a swimmer, and my friend's a really passionate swimmer, so I was like, I must go swimming, and luckily there's a pond I can dive in. Sorry,
that's a rapidly pond that's turning to a lake.
There we go. I was really, at first it was funny in my head. I was like, I'll bring it into this, and then we talked over each other, and then I kind of ruined it, and I was like, I've got to keep going now. It's terrible swimming.
Oh no, I'm subtitling.
You really
this,
committed. You doubled down on the swimming pond.
Yeah, I'm calling this Pod 6 across the pond for sure.
Yes, amazing.
Whether they want it or not.
And that's what's why I was talking to Robbie about this earlier. Often on our podcast, we can't go off on tangents sometimes, but when we guest on other people's, we can. It's quite enjoyable to just randomly chat whatever we want for a moment. So sorry about that.
No need to apologize at all. I was going to say, you're just thinking, you edit this.
Yeah, I know. It's true. Feels great. I'd have to edit this.
Yeah, we're the opposite because we go off on tangents all the time. We had to learn to not. So we're you're right in our comfort zone.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
So when you have the number one movie podcast from the UK on and you're interviewing them, you have to ask them the best questions.
Yeah.
The most important question, especially if you've only got 6. So my second question is, if you were a food, what food would you be?
I can see a theme going with these questions.
I can as well.
Back and forth.
I also feel this is our third question. I don't know why.
No, it's Kirk's second question.
Oh, it's Kirk's second question. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. What if I was a food? What would I be?
You go first, Giles.
I think a blancmange.
Rogue.
Now, blancmange is kind of like a really old person's trifle.
It was very popular in the 1940s.
It's really disgusting.
If you read a lot of Just William books, that it shows up in that.
It's really obscure 1940s food references for you.
Show up next to like a fruit salad or a custard.
It's something you really wouldn't
jelly.
want. I remember going to my grandma's house, and this house was...
So is it part ice cream, part jelly? Is that?
I have no idea, but it's disgusting. And she'd make out that this was like a treat for us. And we'd go, and it's a stinky house, and it was old, and you didn't want to be there anyway as a child because she didn't let you play. And you'd have to have this terrible first course. And then she like made this treat. We've got a treat for you. Here's a blancmange. And we'd all be trying not to throw up, having to force this thing down our throats. Oh, sheltered childhood. So yeah, I'd be a blancmange. Yeah, take that.
Okay.
I just
Go on, Robbie.
It's hard to top that. I would have to say some form of sea cucumber.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? What? Why?
Just, I mean, it's eclectic and you probably wouldn't get eaten that much, really. I mean, if your goal is to not get eaten, right?
Yeah. It could be a porcupine.
And most people
So it's a
probably wouldn't
survival
want to
choice.
eat you. Well, I don't know.
It's
I'm
like,
just
if I
reading
eat
into
food, I don't want to be immediately eaten.
Yeah.
I'm a food. I want to live as long as I can. I'd rather
You
go
should have
old.
picked a fruitcake.
There you go.
Christmas fruitcake. Because everyone just regifts it. So you're just a 30-year-old fruitcake that's just been regifted a million
And
times.
you'd get to travel to loads of people's houses and get celebrated at Christmas.
But then you just get left on the high shelf the whole time. But maybe that's
the point. If you
Okay.
want to survive, you
Sure.
make your choice.
Sure.
You can't. If you want to be a blancmange and just flap about and get thrown in the bin, or
Yeah.
you could be a fruitcake. You know what I mean?
I like the idea that people would just leave a fruitcake because they feel bad about throwing it away, but a blancmange they'd just chuck out.
Yeah.
This is just disgusting and it needs to be destroyed.
Whereas Christmas cake, you don't want to throw it out because it means
Well, yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It will be
Well, I've had that
destroyed.
as well.
Maybe
Yeah.
with fire.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Great questions. Great questions.
So one of our favorite things when we listen to your episodes the first time is you really do a lot of things to try and inspire people that if they're interested in making films to go make films. And you have even like you put casting calls at the end of the episodes and things like that. Is there any other kind of advice that you guys like to offer to people who are aspiring filmmakers?
Oh, it's a serious question. Oh, nice.
No, it
Nice.
goes back and forth, Charles. It's
Yeah,
good
I'm
cop, bad cop.
getting this now.
Yeah.
I'm asleep now. I'm snoring over here.
So I think, yeah, I mean, one of the things we sort of always say is, like seek out as much kind of information and guidance as you can, both from the internet, because it's like such a wonderful resource now, but also by going to events and meeting other filmmakers. That's really, really important. Because you can have this sort of idea of filmmaking and it can completely change when you meet someone else who's either like-minded or has a completely different kind of perspective on filmmaking, and it just makes you kind of broaden your horizons, and you learn a lot from other people. That's why I think filmmakers always say go to film festivals, because you meet other filmmakers there and you can talk about projects. But also practicing as much as you can, getting out there and making stuff, no matter what it is, even if it's a short. kind of Instagram mini series or something. Just get creative and get used to creating stuff. You don't necessarily have to be publishing everything you create. It could be stuff that you just make and you decide, oh, I don't want the world to see that, I'm just going to put it away. But at least you're like a musician, you're practicing your craft as much as you can.
Yeah, 100%. I always say this: is go out and make something, go make your film. And Robbie's exactly right. You don't have to show people. People think that, oh, I've made something, I have to show it now. Well, no, it's for you. If you're an actor, you practice your craft in your room. You do it to the mirror. Why not the same with directing or screenwriting? Is just constantly do it. And my advice would be to believe in your vision. Find amazing people around you that want to work with you and get your vision right, get your passion of that project correct. Pitch it to them and say, will you come and join me on my journey? And now you've suddenly got amazing collaborators. And you'll find that if you want to make films and you're passionate about something, you can get really good people to work on it for you. And sometimes for very little money if you haven't got any. And, amazing if you can pay people, you can get even better people, or people who really want to do it, because money's an important thing when you're trying to be a filmmaker. But I say, if you can go out and make something, go out and make it, but really believe in what you're making. I think that's important, and know who that audience could be for that film as well. If you're making a short about football, great. You can tap into all those football fans who like that kind of thing. If you're making it about blancmanges and people who love, sea cucumbers, then you tap into the sea cucumbers of Facebook fan page.
I'm part of the group there. Yeah. President of the fan club.
I'm not surprised. So if you want to be a filmmaker, then you've really got to do it. Like Robbie says, you have to go to the courses, you have to go to events, turn up at film festivals, watch people's films.
Put yourself out there. Don't slag anything off, because it's so hard to make anything, and just be involved. Go work on someone else's film for nothing. Go be a runner. Go shadow someone.
Whatever it is. But if you want to be a filmmaker,
find different ways just to work with as many different people as possible. Even if it's like a non-profit thing, or if it's like I'm happy to do this for you. If like work with that kind of philosophy where you're sort of working with people, and it's gaining that mutual respect and broadening your contact base.
Absolutely. And the more you do, the more you'll grow, because like I say, this indie film world is small, and people will hear about you very soon, especially if you're talented.
That helps.
It really does.
That's some great advice. And I think there's some good crossover there too, because I think any sort of creative endeavor, there's always that fear of getting started. And I think that anybody that's doing it is usually like, no, just do it. Start. You're going to suck at first. Like, it's just the way it is.
Fine. Yeah,
but that's how you get better.
I agree. Yeah. Don't be scared of the failure. I think a lot of people I'm going to be a filmmaker, I'm going to be a director. And then everyone puts that pressure on them. Oh, can't wait to see your stuff. And that suddenly makes you very scared of putting it out, because someone goes, oh no, you're terrible. It's over. You know what I mean? So it's a really tough one to do, but you have to just fight through it and don't be scared of it.
But there's lots of ways to like battle test ideas so that you can fail without it costing loads of money. You can shoot like a scene with your iPhone and your friends or yourself, or you can use Lego figures to like block a scene and just work out, okay, does this idea work like in the real world? And like doing kind of those sort of maquettes and like demos and trial runs and pilots, they're really essential.
Totally essential. And speaking of Lego figures, I storyboarded my whole debut movie using Lego figures, and just took photos of that, and then got some wonderful artists to sort of draw that into making sense.
And it's a horror film, so that I'd quite like to see that original kind of Lego version.
I think there's some evidence somewhere. I did film some of it, but so it's doable. Yeah.
Even the best do it. Peter Jackson did that with Lord of the Rings as well, with a lot of the
Lego Lass.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was. I mean, I'm not really as savvy as like Zach is, but I didn't know that Legos was, and it makes complete sense. And how you can block and get the idea of placements and stuff like that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Because it's very hard to describe that to someone who might be drawing something for you, or if you're talking to your DP or your art department. Oh, so a guy's going to be stood here and a girl stood here, and we're going to move the camera around. It's very difficult to say that and to get them to understand it. You stick 2 Lego figures on and you move your fingers around the Lego figures. They understand what the shot's going to be very simply. So you can do it like that. But like you say, lots of people do it that way. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's how they invented Legolas. I'm going to do the joke again.
Okay, just to make sure it goes in. Yeah. Do that thing that like Marlon Brando used to do, where you basically spoil every other take, so they have to use that.
You have to use the one
Yeah.
before.
You have to use the one where he's not wearing pants. or
Totally.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we are at our last question.
I'm expecting
It's
great
been
things.
painful. It's been painful, but we're here. We've dropped out so many times.
Yeah.
But it has been a blast. I will
Yeah,
say that.
it's been great getting to talk to you guys.
Yeah,
and
thank you guys for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
So the last question is, what is your guilty pleasure movie? What is the movie that you're a little embarrassed to say you like and most people don't or think you're ridiculous for liking it?
Oh,
I've got a good answer for this.
go for it. While I think of
So
mine.
my guilty pleasure is undoubtedly Under Siege 2: Dark Territory with Steven Seagal.
Wow.
Nice.
So this is a film that I've caught like many times, like on late night television.
Mhm.
I don't have like live television anymore because we just watch stuff on demand. But like when I used to, live with my parents and we had, TV. Like, this is the kind of thing that was always on. And obviously we know Steven Seagal is, he's maybe
The best?
There's various kind of stories about him out there. I'm not going to
best, yeah.
comment on his character per se, but that film is just a kind of, it's the mother of all kind of diehard rip-off films where, terrorists board a train and Steven Seagal plays a chef who who's actually a military kind of,
We've all
veteran,
seen it. We've
naval
all seen
veteran.
it. You don't need to
Yeah.
explain the story.
Okay, I'm just pitching it for those who haven't. And he has to, save his daughter and stop a killer satellite and
A killer satellite.
all the kind of best sort of action tropes that he used to.
Is this the one where the girl jumps out the cake?
No, that's the first one. Under Siege.
It's funny because literally
and
that
the
was
second one
also
is
what I
better.
was thinking. I
Exactly.
was
Yeah.
thinking about
No.
the girl in the cake
Girl jumped
because
in the
that's
cake.
a very
No,
memorable scene.
Absolutely.
The
When we were young.
second one is much better, in my
What?
opinion. Yeah.
Wow.
So you should check that out if you haven't.
Check it out. This is a tip from Robbie. Check out Under Siege 2. What was the
Dark
colon?
Territory.
Colon Dark
It's the
Territory.
best title.
Hang on, it's called Dark Territory, but yet it's set on a train.
Yeah, because the train goes through this patch of land that's called Dark Territory because it's like off the grid, like they can't access it via telephone.
You
kind of
really
signals.
like this
yeah, 'cause it's
movie.
in the, I've seen it a few times now. So it's so great. There's this bit where they're in the Pentagon and there's all these military guys. It's like, oh no, the train's going into Dark Territory. We can't follow it through there. Oh, it's great.
Oh, I like the way they got the title in the movie as well.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet it sold it more. I mean,
To you.
Giles, what's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, thank you for asking. Oh, God. It's so difficult to follow that amazing movie that you just chose. But I think for me, it's always been BMX Bandits.
Oh, of course.
No, I don't know if you know BMX Bandits across
I
the
don't.
pond.
No.
Okay, well, this is Nicole Kidman's first film, I believe, and it is
In the fair land of Australia.
in the fair land of Australia, and it follows 3 BMX bandits, kids, as they go on an adventure. Now, I recently re-looked at this movie for I think one of the podcast episodes, I think the first one, and it is terrible and it is ridiculous, and it has no plot. There's really no plot apart from in the end they all go down a slide and they all kind of get covered in foam. But they saved the day, and it's called BMX Bandits, and it's amazing.
I believe that's following Robert McKee's rule of screenwriting. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You
Sounds
must
like-
always have a foam-related slide at the end of your third act.
Absolutely. I remember as a kid when you used to go to Blockbusters and we'd be allowed to take one video home, me and my sister, and we'd always argue. And every other day, or whenever we go to Blockbuster every weekend, we'd get to choose, like, your turn this week, Giles, your turn this week. And every week I'd take BMX Bandits, and she was always so pissed off. She'd be like, I can't watch it again. Go watch it again. I used to build BMXs as a kid and just thrash around on them. Yeah, I had some great BMXs in my time.
Oh, didn't know that about you, Giles.
There you go. Red alloys.
Did you disturb kind of older people at the local park with your BMX skills?
Yeah, I did. I used to skid. Used to do skids.
Wow.
I had trick
Skid
nuts on the back. Yeah, yeah. I should make a movie.
They used to call them skid marks.
Hey! Yeah. I had them elsewhere. Do you know what? These questions have probably been the best questions I think I've ever had since my GCSE pincushion exam.
Oh,
I mean, we try our best. Only the best quality.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It was, we were really looking forward to talking to you. We wanted to have some stuff where we got to actually pick your brains about all the wealth of knowledge you guys have on filmmaking, but also it's more fun to learn about who you are. And now we know that you're a blancmange. Did I say that correct?
Blancmange.
In a sea cucumber.
yeah.
So now your listeners can know that. They can get the deep insights into your mind.
Please.
Also, you're listening to Frank Earth with that knowledge.
Yeah, no. Every time they hear us now, they're like, but he just likes blancmange. And this one is a sea creature. Cucumber, one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it right, John.
I know.
But yeah, we absolutely love the show. And thank you guys so much for joining us and telling us a little bit about it.
Yes. Thank you for your time. Thank you for talking to us from all the way across the pond. And now I think we are best friends.
I agree.
We are.
Of course we are. Yeah. And thank you for having us on.
I'm looking forward to reading your scripts.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I thought I was reading your scripts. I have to write a script for you guys now? I actually have a couple.
I was going to say, you've got some screenplays. Send them over there.
I have a couple, but I don't feel comfortable sending them.
Suddenly the fear of, sending a script.
Either that or you have to make a Lego film.
Lego film where it's covered in blancmange for the whole movie.
I will make you guys a blancmange. I don't know what it is, but I'll make it. I'll tweet it for you guys.
Zach's a master baker. He loves baking.
Is there a Gordon Ramsay masterclass on blancmanges? Because there should be, where he just tries to make one and then
he just
f's it up and
swears.
After how you guys described it, I'm thinking that Gordon Ramsay might just be like, it's shit.
This is shit. Can anyone do a good Gordon Ramsay? What does he sound like?
No, my
You're a
favorite
shit sandwich.
It's fucking raw.
That was great.
My favorite one is like Dead Ringers, where it's John Coulter and he's like, Gordon Ramsay making toast, butter, toast, in, done, there. It's like, because he just does these kind of monosyllabic barking sounds the whole time. It's great.
It's great. It's great. He's one of our English staples. We're so proud.
It's a national treasure.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised he hasn't got an MBE yet or a Sir before his name.
He's earned that by going around the world shouting at people for making poor quality omelets.
No, and Americans love it. Like, if we could, they literally could just have a show called Gordon Ramsay Yells at Americans, and we would watch it all the time.
I mean, there's maybe something in that.
if Gordon Ramsay's listening, he just is like, genius. I could just go yell at people.
He will be.
You mean I get to yell at people and I get paid?
Yeah, this isn't what I do already. Amazing. I mean,
he's made a pretty successful career out of doing that already. It's pretty impressive.
It's really impressive. I mean, the guy can't even cook. Isn't it incredible?
It's always stunt work. Anytime there's actual cooking, you can see his hands are different looking.
Totally, yeah. That tiny hands. Yeah, it's really weird.
They just get Ainsley Harriott in to do the actual cooking.
Such an English reference you chose there. They've no idea who Ainsley Harriott is.
They probably might know him from the internet memes.
No, I do know him from the internet.
The spicy meat meme.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
There we go.
That's fun. You guys are ace. Thank you.
Well, guys, I hope you guys have a great night, and I hope that the rain doesn't wash you guys away.
Yep. And I'm going to try and figure out how to package and send the blancmange your way. Just thank you.
Excellent.
Very much looking forward
We'll expect the FedEx.
Yeah, at the moment, I think I might swim across and see you guys very soon. I'll just chuck a stone.
Yeah, absolutely. We're close to the water. We're in Florida. We're fairly close as far as just pond distance goes.
Yeah, we get called Pond Life forever.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank
Take
you.
care, guys. Thank you for everything.
Have you guys seen me since I did the goatee?
We have not. And we're live now, so now everyone can see it. Welcome to another edition of the PDS Live. And we have a special guest, as you can see right here. Josh is back to help us celebrate our 100-ish episodes. And Josh, we did look on Spotify, and we have over 250 uploaded to Spotify. So the ish in 100-ish is very ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh is back. Back again. Tell a friend. That's all.
Is that how that song goes?
Something like that.
And if you're wondering, why was it on the starting soon page for so long and there was British people there? We interviewed some friends for the Pod 6, which is we asked them 6 questions, just like Paul interviewed us 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think
And now it was our turn to interview somebody. So we did that yesterday. Yes, yesterday, because we had to do it for their time zone. So we did it like 1 in the afternoon, which is like 6 o'clock for them. And yeah, so it was a good interview with some people that have interviewed a lot of very accomplished filmmakers, and
They really
it's
have.
really cool. They're really cool guys, and they're
Who are
really
some of
fun to
the-
talk to.
Who are some of the cool ones they've interviewed?
Mark Strong is definitely probably their biggest actor, but the thing is they get really good interviews from like directors, screenwriters, and like cinematographers because it's not as like a flashy position, so they can get a lot higher level in those positions because they don't really get asked for interviews all the time. Because honestly, if you think of directors, most people can think of a couple, a handful of directors, but even directors, unless you're like Tarantino or Christopher Nolan, it's not like people are knocking down your door all the time to try and get you on all kinds of interviews. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of really strong like filmmaking people on there that just aren't like actors.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think one of the directors or something for Frozen 1 and 2, one of the dudes from Rogue One. What was some other big movies that? I mean, of course, some ones that Zach's like, oh yeah, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
No, but yeah, they had some cool stuff on there, and so yeah, it's a really cool show to check out too. We've actually covered them on the show before as well.
Yeah, they've made some movies. There's like 7 people on that crew, but they kind of rotate in and out when they're not too busy. There's like one constant, which is Giles, and then the rest, they filter in and out when they're not too busy doing a movie or something, which they periodically do, which is really cool.
I hear Moses.
Zach,
you
I've been
go.
meaning to ask because I've been watching y'all stream. What's with all the plants in the background? Are those all real like indoor plants?
Yeah, those
You
are-
got like a little garden going.
Yeah, those are my plants. I got those planters off Woot for like $11 for 4 of them, and I got succulents in there. And that is the peace lily that we got when Mom died. Same one,
It's awesome.
and it's still doing good. So yeah, those are all real plants, and I always liked having plants in the area.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy the other day, and he mentioned he had used a Raspberry Pi to make an ebb and flow device. So basically, you set it up so it automatically waters your plants based on how much moisture is in the dirt.
It's pretty
So you
awesome.
get sensors, plug them in, and it hooks up to basically just a bucket of water, and it'll just dump water directly into the soil when you want it to.
That sounds like a pretty fun project, actually. There's some cool stuff you can do with Raspberry Pis.
Yeah, and I've got at least 2 at this point.
At least 2 projects, or at least 2 Raspberry Pis.
Yes.
It sounds delicious.
Get out of here with your puns. But yeah, first we're going to talk about a podcast that was literally recommended to us by the creator, and he's got a very popular show. And then after that, we are going to talk about everything else we discovered throughout the week. So we hope you stick around. If you think of anything that you've discovered throughout the week, feel free to throw it in any of our chats, and we're probably watching them, I think.
Trying to. I'm watching all of them. It's like a control center in here. I've got all the things going on at the same time.
Yeah, I've got one screen, so I'm trying to control center with my one screen. So I've got stuff up top and then 2 things at the bottom.
I want 4 screens one day. I want to be the.
I want a wall of screens.
Yeah.
Look like a Wall Street trader with all the screens everywhere, checking your stonks.
Yep, exactly that.
Stonks. All right, so I guess we're gonna jump into the recording of the PDS. Yeah, I drew that out a little bit weirdly.
I was like, what's happening?
I was doing other.
Kirk, are you okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe instead of jumping into it, we kind of ease ourselves slowly into it to acclimate to the water. Because,
Yeah.
Kirk, you sound like you're a little hesitant there to jump right in.
I mean,
No,
I have a question. Are you that type of person? Like, okay, if there's some freezing cold water, do you inch in or do you jump in?
Jump in.
Jump.
When I was younger,
All day.
I definitely jumped, but your brain wants to make you ease in, but it's always worse. So I make myself jump.
I jump every time.
All right, I was just pulling up the notes from our.
Man, I could go for jumping in some cold water, man. It's been hot. down
It's
here
been
in Florida.
crazy.
I do
It's
wish I had
been
a swimming pool
swampy.
like in my backyard for that reason.
Are the notes in Discord?
Yeah.
I'll pull those up so I can look at them. But yeah, no, our pool right now looks like swampy. Little swampy.
Oh, can we look up some? Let's all look some. I meant to look this up earlier. Dang it. I wanted to look up some stuff on times that like psychological torture in the form of music has been used.
Oh yeah, there definitely has been.
Are we going to discuss our favorite songs that we could use for psychological torture against our enemies?
Sure.
Sure.
Anybody in chat, think about your song that you'd use to torture your enemies.
Or is that too dark?
I mean, we're kind of already going down that path, so why not? Psychological torture.
Are you okay over there? Are you singing a song?
Sounds like he's having issues.
I was trying to sound it out. I don't know how to spell that word. There's a P in it
don't-
somewhere.
Zach, spell psychological without typing it.
PSYCHOLOGICAL.
Dang
I
it.
think that's right.
Yeah, it is.
There you go, Kirk.
There's a Wikipedia specifically about music in psychological operations.
Of course there is.
I've definitely heard of one. It wasn't music per se, but I think it was Vietnam. The problem is most of these like cases where they've done it, it was messed up and not like, oh, this is funny. It's more like disturbing. So like in Vietnam, I think it was, they would set up speakers on helicopters and they would play like ghost sounds, and they were essentially acting like they were like dead relatives of the Vietnamese people. So it was in Vietnamese, and they were just
Oh,
like saying
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, but there was more to that because there was also like superstition about like spirits of like dead family. It was real messed up actually.
Yeah, that's
I
what I'm
remember
saying. A
reading
lot
an
of this
article
is
about
messed up.
Yeah, typically
Um,
psychological warfare is not a good thing.
that. Mhm.
Usually not fun.
But we're going to try and make it fun by torturing people with pen, pineapple, apple pen.
Dang it. Just saying it now, I'm tortured. Because it'll be in my head.
Apple pen.
Yep, there it is.
I want to learn all
Icky.
those dance moves. They're
For
so
sure.
good.
For sure.
I just want that outfit, really.
It's a great Halloween outfit.
Some kind of like swaggy, silky leopard print pajamas.
They do look so comfy.
They do.
All right, let's hit record and let's do this thing. Do 10 seconds starting now. Hey Josh, why don't you intro the show?
Is that 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to start
Approximately.
over. Let's just start over to make sure we get 10.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, correct.
Kidding. Podcast Discovery Show. All right, let me see if I've still got it.
That is the name of the show, yeah.
Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast about other podcasts. Where each week we dive deep into a podcast and discuss all the things that we thought about and listened to and heard about and made us feel happy with. I'm Josh.
I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
And this week we're going to talk about it. Dang it.
I was waiting to see. I was thinking you were going to do it. Go ahead.
Well, now I have to write this down. I need another screen. I need another monitor.
Just enhance.
Enhance. Enhance.
Enhance.
Sounds like Zach's hacking the mainframe.
All right. And this week we are talking about a recommendation that was given to us directly from the man himself, Glenn Washington, the host and creator of Snap Judgment. And he recommended 4 different episodes of Snap Judgment. And we picked one. We picked Gambit. And so that is the episode that we are going to discuss today.
Yeah, this all came from when Kirk was sending out messages to everyone, just asking for just recommendations from some of our favorite shows. He basically picked any large podcaster he could and sent him a message, like we were important people, and said, "Hey, we're looking for recommendations," and he sent over this one. And if you've never heard Snap Judgment before, it is a fantastic storytelling podcast. They have done a great job for a long time now. How many episodes are they at? I don't even...
They don't number them anymore. Like, it doesn't show a number. But, I mean, I've been listening to them since I was farming. So that's like 5 years ago. And they weren't new, and I heard them there.
So, yeah, they've been doing this for a long time, and they call it storytelling with a beat. So underneath all of their stories, they usually have kind of a... It's not high, like loud or anything like that. It's not really high energy, but it just kind of pushes the story along. It kind of adds a little bit to it. And they find just really great stories. There's been many episodes we've talked about on the show, from the spooked episodes to just randomly pointing it out. But when he actually responds to what we're saying, we definitely want to cover one of the ones that he personally liked. And he actually set this up by saying, trying to pick my favorite Snapped episode is like trying to pick a favorite child, and it's really hard to do. But then he picked 3 of them. So if he has children, they should watch out, because he can pick favorites if he needs to, if he's back against the wall.
Yeah, and I reached out to Zach and Kirk this week and said, hey, you guys want me to join on an episode? Because I know they were doing their anniversary or 100 episode-ish celebration. And they're like, yeah, join the one where we talk about Snap Judgment. After Kirk wrapped up the episode last week saying, Josh hates Snap Judgment. And so I love that they invited me specifically for this episode. However,
Fake news.
However, I think it actually is perfect timing, because I looked at it with a new lens when I listened to it today. Historically, like, it's not my favorite podcast before. Like I mentioned this last time, it wasn't my favorite podcast, but I get it. I get its popularity. I understand why people like it. However, I looked at it with a new lens now, and I think it's because I've been reading East of Eden, which is a phenomenal kind of like classic literature book. and the prose and the writing style and how he says things is like almost kind of like musical throughout the whole book, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. So I've been thinking about kind of prose and like how things are said, and kind of the weight that things carry by saying it one way versus another, and then realizing when listening to Snap Judgment today that it's kind of prose, but you take it into an audio medium and then you layer music into it. So it's just taking that idea of having good prose, of like telling a story in a very concise, specific way that gets maximum impact, and then layering in music and layering in tone of voice and layering in all the sound effects. And you get like a really powerful effect from it. And looking at it from that perspective, I enjoyed it significantly better because I was looking at it for, hey, here's a great story. And a lot of times the stories are okay, but it's not like, oh, this is the craziest story I've ever heard. It's the story with the prose that they're using and the music layered underneath. It gives you a more emotional impact. And so kind of looking at it with that new lens completely changed my mindset on the podcast. And I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of that is essentially, it's not the story, it's the storytelling. And that's what Snap Judgment is fantastic at doing.
Mm-hmm.
They've always done a great job at kind of immersing you in whatever they're talking about. Because yeah, even while we were listening to this today, you kind of hear some of these stories and you're like, there's not a ton going on, but that's how you can always tell a good storyteller. If they can tell a story where there's not a lot going on and it's not the most insane story you've ever heard, but still you listen and it impacts you in a way that it shouldn't based on what the actual content of the story is, that means it's a good storytelling.
yep.
Yeah,
And
I
that's-
mean, the whole episode starts, and this is always one of my favorite parts of the show. And I will say I nerd out, and have I told you guys about the time that I met Glenn Washington?
We have talked about it many times.
But I think he probably is one of my favorite, I
People.
guess, people. I look up to him a lot, but it's because he has this ability to tell a story that even if it's the most mundane, like it started off with him telling a story about playing chess, literally playing chess, and there was no giant payoff, but the way he told the story, you were into it, you were riveted,
Yeah.
you were listening, and that's what makes an amazing storyteller to me.
and that's really the whole book of East of Eden. Like, you'll read like 3 chapters and nothing actually really happens, but you feel really good about it and enthralled in everything that he's saying. It's absolutely crazy. So that's, I think, why it resonated with me, because I'm in that mindset right now.
Yeah.
I'm reading that book as well, and I've gotten lost multiple times because my mind will wander, and I'm like, dang it, they're talking about a different family? What family are they talking about? Because it's all these like, this person was a bad person to this person.
Yeah. It's
But it's
especially the
told
first
very
couple
well.
chapters.
Yeah,
the
first-
first couple chapters are very like, this family was this, and this person's daughter was this person, and this daughter was like this, and this son was like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like genealogies.
It really does get into some of that, but it's great. I highly recommend it. I'm like 75% of the way through, and probably one of the best books I've ever read. But okay, so on the chess story, they ended that chess story basically saying, you got to look back, you got to look at the whole board. You're thinking too much. You got to look at the whole board.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys take away from that? What was that saying to you?
I was doing 14 things at the same time, so I wasn't really trying to dig too deep into what the metaphor was there. What did it mean something to you in particular?
No, I've been thinking about it, and I mean, I think there's a lot to
something
take
there.
away from it. Yeah, I think it's like a lot of times in our day to day, we're so focused on the day to day, we're not looking at the big picture. So like, you could have a perfect day planned out, but you're still not going in the right direction. You're still not winning because you're not looking at the big picture. I think that's a pretty easy takeaway. But I think there's more. I think there's more layers there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of metaphor kind of in that area, not seeing the forest for the trees. That entire idea of being so close to a painting you can't even see what it is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's just trying to, and I think you're right. A lot of times it would be kind of like, don't get too bogged down in the minutia and know that when I think about that, I always think about, somebody said, I can't even remember where the exact context was anymore, but they said essentially to kind of try and relax yourself when you're going through a day-to-day life. When something happens that drives you up a wall, you think about, is this going to matter to me in 7 years? Is this going to matter to me in 7 months? Is this going to matter to me in 7 days, 7 hours, 7 seconds? You know, and it helps you kind of put individual things into a category that's more fitting than like reacting purely. So I think a lot of those things could kind of play into what he meant there, where you're just trying to change that perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I think you've mentioned that before, but I need to actually do that in practice, like, because there's a lot of things that happen in day-to-day life, even if it's just small stuff, and usually it's the opposite. My worst days are when a bunch of tiny little things go wrong most of the time. You know, it's just like, oh, I just want today to be over. Every little thing is just going to crap, and I get in my own head, and then I have a bad day. But yeah, I need to think from that mindset of, hey, this doesn't really matter in the large scheme of things.
It's almost like when it's a really big thing that happens, you feel like this is a big bad thing that happened. I feel okay being upset by it. But if it's like a small thing, like you wake up and your neck has got a big cramp in it, you're like, this is a small thing and it's going to make me angry all day, but it doesn't impact anything in the long run. So it's just a small annoyance that just means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's almost more annoying because it doesn't mean anything. It's just annoying.
It's just there to bother you. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so they start out with kind of that, just a little simple story, but even from this conversation we had, they just drop kind of little thoughts in your head. You know, they're very effective at picking the stories that, even though they seem kind of simple, it's got potential to like mean something to people and to make you think about something else. But then the next two stories are less so of that. You know, it's much more intense story typically, you know. So the second one is about a guy who wrote a song, and
John Fusile, and I titled it Earworm. I don't even know if that's what they called it, but that's what I called it.
Thoughts on it was called Life on Easy Street.
Yeah, John
the
Fusile
song
was the one that was the producer that did this segment. It was Jim Bianco who was the singer-songwriter. My bad.
And yeah, so this entire one is about somebody writing a song that was largely obscure for most of the time. He wrote just kind of a feel-good song that was a little bit goofy. He talked about kind of one of the interesting things that stuck out to me in this one is because I've heard it a lot, and it's something that I hadn't really thought about before, like I'd started hearing this, because like when I've talked to some people for Creators Cove, they say like, oh, I just kind of was doing X one day. I was doing the dishes and this melody popped into my head. And I think that's something that singer-songwriters have. It just kind of, at some point, you kind of just like hear something. You hear something just kind of out of nowhere, out of your mind. And they end up wanting to like chase that down to try and refine that into a song. And so that was an interesting thing that I immediately heard there. I was like, okay, so this just happens to singer-songwriters. They just think in melodies and they hear music in their head.
You know, one of the funny things is that's happened to me. And when he said that, I realized it's happened to me, but I have zero vocabulary and zero capability to translate it into anything. So there's been a couple of times in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, I got this sweet jam in my head. And I was like, well, there's nothing I can ever do with that. So that's just for me.
Well, here it is. Here it is in my brain. But yeah, so he writes this song. He puts this song out. And I don't think that he really did anything with it. You know, it was kind of there. It didn't hit in any big way. And he literally was flipping houses. He had essentially moved out of that whole career path and was working in real estate, and he was just doing things. And then The Walking Dead TV show approached him to use this song, and it started this whole crazy chain of events that, how do you ever, like, can you imagine the position this guy was in where his song that was largely obscure went in a direction he was never anticipating?
Yeah, and this was when The Walking Dead was still like super popular, like #1 in the ratings and stuff like that. And if he's like, well, yeah, sure, use it. And I guess he didn't like read up on what they were planning on using it for, because he said apparently it was written in there. But I remember this episode. Did either of you guys watch this episode?
I stopped after like season 2 or 3 of The Walking Dead.
I think this may have been the beginning of season 3, maybe season 4, but it was, I swear it was episode 1. So it was like everyone that's been watching the show is making sure they tune in to see how this next season is going to start. And they play this song, like they said 9 times. And it's just over and over because they show the monotony and the torture that they're doing to Daryl. And it's disturbing. And the song gets stuck in your head. And the rest of the episode, you can't stop hearing it. And
it's such good writing
Oh, it
because
was
they
good.
basically they exposed the audience to a piece of the torture that he was going through.
Yeah, and it
that's
got
just
to
such
him.
brilliant writing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they semi-tortured their audience, and they continue to do that for the remaining however many seasons they did.
It was a different kind of torture later on. I stopped watching, I think, after that. I think that was the last season I watched. It used to be an amazing show. I really liked it. I mean, it was
early
gory
seasons were
and
good.
stuff, but it was good. It got too repetitive, I feel like.
Sure.
Oh, we escaped this band of bad people. Now we're
Now we're
this
safe.
It's a beautiful town of safeness. Oh, these are bad people too. it's just, I don't know. It just happens. It got to be too much formulaic.
Yeah,
is the way
it
I would
was.
put it.
I don't know. They had promise, but so his show or The Walking Dead features his song, and it blows up. It gets to really high on the charts. Everybody's talking about it. It becomes essentially what we call now viral, and it out of nowhere, his song, which was doing nothing, exploded. But then it took another turn. I really like this story because it's just insane to think about like what he was thinking as this was happening. After all this happens, then I believe it was at one of the ICE camps on the border. They were playing this constantly overnight just to what is
No, it's people
happening?
protesting in Portland.
That was the second one. First it was ICE.
No, they were.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
people in
that's what it
Portland
was.
protesting ICE. Correct?
Oh, it was in Portland the
was,
whole
yeah.
time?
It was
Yeah.
back in 2018 when there was all those kind of conversations going around with the border patrol people treating the people at the border terribly in like the concentration camps and everything else they were doing. Like ICE was like really messing people up. So they had all these people camped out in front of ICE in Portland.
And then they started playing this song over and over and over again. They said it was like they said it was like 12 hours overnight. They were just blaring this song at people. And so now the song went from obscurity to some weird popularity based on TV show to literally being psychological warfare against protesters by a government agency. And it's one of the wilder paths I could possibly imagine for a song. I don't know how you really beat that. But then they go on to kind of like, they talk about essentially it was co-opted by the protesters themselves and kind of used their Jim
Some
ended up
people literally had PTSD because they had experienced being brutally arrested during this whole time, and they had that, that song as a sensory memory, and when they would hear it, it would kind of trigger it. So that was crazy and horrible.
Yeah, and one of the things that, like, in light of kind of what's been going on across the country for the past couple months, I had not realized that peaceful protesters had been attacked by government agencies like this prior to the past couple of months. I thought that was like a new thing and just started popping up, but I just hadn't been paying attention. And to see that this has been going on for a couple of years and that they're abusing their power that way is just sad. It really is.
yeah.
And their defense was, oh, we were just listening to that for us.
Yeah, clear lie. Yeah, clear lie.
That was so ridiculous.
But
Like,
they
that's
said they
such
wouldn't
a-
do it again because they didn't want to get sued, I guess. They didn't want to make national news. But yeah, they said they wouldn't do it again. They said it was just a couple of random people who happened to be listening to it. And yeah, so the actual songwriter obviously sent a cease and desist to them for doing that. And I don't know, it just kind of became this weird thing. It became it started out as kind of like a anti-protesting thing, but then the protesters took it over and made it like a pro-protesting kind of statement. So it was just crazy to hear this song get a life of its own. To
And
hear,
it's such like an upbeat, like
oh, it makes no sense in any of the context it's in. You know, like you'll have to listen to this. What's it called?
it is,
Life on
it is
Easy
ear,
Street.
it is an earworm. You know, it's a song that will get stuck in your head. Yeah, it's Easy Street, I think is the name of the song, maybe, or Life on Easy Street. I don't know.
And they mentioned it in there. It almost sounds like a song you would hear on a children's show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes no sense in the context it was used in pretty much any
Like,
of these situations.
It sounds like the theme song for like a kids Disney show is what it sounds like.
But let's be honest, most songs that would feel like torture are songs like that. Like, okay, so we talked about what would be the song that would torture us, or that we would torture our enemies with. I don't like it that way, but what would really bother us? That's the way I'm going to put it. What would be the thing that if someone used it on us, it would really torture us? For me, it would be Baby Shark. I hate that song.
Baby Shark,
so
I
much.
would be surprised if Baby Shark wasn't actually used. I would
No,
be
it was here in
surprised.
Florida. It was here in Florida. There was a Florida man story about, I think it was homeless people that kept sleeping at this gazebo in this
Yep.
park. And so, like, this politician started playing that at the gazebo all night long. So it has been used
You
as
see
a
what I'm saying?
deterrent.
Every one of these, it's not a good usage. Like, it's never like, oh, they did it for fun. They did it to fun mess with somebody. No, it's always terrible. I'm trying to
What
think.
would be the song that would really bother you, Josh?
I mean, I think I can name a handful that would be bad off the top of my head. Disturbed, Down with the Sickness would be. a
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
that'd be terrible.
And then I think also like Gangnam Style, because it's so high energy. I think it would be exhausting
Yeah.
after listening to it on repeat for a long enough amount of time.
What about Photograph by Nickelback?
Oh God, yeah.
There,
Have I
there
been
was guys.
tortured by that before?
there
Like,
were-
I
there were
feel,
guys-
I had a feeling when you said those words. Like,
The guy
I
from
don't
the
like
Bad
it.
Christian podcast did that. Kirk. He listened to Nickelback on repeat for 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
I forgot he said he did that.
Yeah.
that's
I'm trying to
ridiculous.
think. Yeah, no, all of those would be pretty bad. I'm trying to think of somebody that's just like, it's so.
So I'll name some other ones that the United States has used in the past. Barney the Dinosaur, Sesame Street, The Real Slim Shady, the Meow Mix theme song.
Meow Mix.
Meow Mix is good. That's evil
one-
genius. Like,
That one's pretty bad. And there was some other ones, definitely some like metal and stuff. I think they used it even like on the Siege of Waco. I remember I watched the documentary and I had also heard a lot of stories about it as well, that they used it there. It's just insane.
I mean, the guy that came up with the Meow Mix theme song to use that way, I swear he did the Austin Powers like pinky to his cheek thing, like whoa, yeah.
yeah, that song.
I
As soon
mean,
as you
don't
said that, I
forget
could
when
hear
the
it.
commercial comes on. I mean, it comes on and you're like, oh God, it's gonna be in my head the rest of the night, and I don't want it to be, but it is. It is gonna be, because it's meow 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 over and over.
It is.
You know, it's in your head right now. It just is.
No, I heard it as soon as you said it. And I heard it in my head the second you said it.
Can we play that as our outro?
I wish, but I think we'll get a takedown. They're very concerned about it. Actually, no, they probably love it. It's just free advertising for Meow Mix.
Singing in a round. That's basically what it is.
But yeah, no, it was a crazy story, and I can't imagine, because at one point he said, like, I knew at this point that I had lost control, and like I had never really thought of it that way. Where like, okay, he made something, and then it is doing something else now. He has no, it's not normal popularity. It's this own thing that's got a life of its own, and it's just crazy to think about. So it was a really cool one.
And when it was on The Walking Dead, it hit number 6 on iTunes and like number 1 on Spotify trending or something like that. It was big. Like I didn't ever hear it.
Oh, that
like, in
show
the
was a
wild.
monster. Like that show had so many viewers for so long.
But I'm just saying, I never heard that song in the wild, but apparently it like shot up for a very short period of time because of, that exposure. So then the second story, I really like that second story. It hit me in the feels a little bit though, man. I felt so bad for the kid.
Oh yeah. No, I feel like if you don't feel bad for this kid, there's something wrong with your brain/heart.
It was the story of little Gus Lee. And it's this story of this little Asian kid that he thought his mom was, going to visit family or something like that, and she was going to come home. She never did.
And I didn't really get any of that. Like, what was going on with his dad? Like, who
found a new woman
because she got sick or because she died?
Because she died.
Probably because she died. But they had never told the little boy, so he's just assuming he was little. Like, he was 7 years old when this all started, and he lived in sounds like a fairly rough area because he would get beat up every single day. And
I put a lot of that on the stepmother, who sounds like a Disney villain level terrible.
Guys, we definitely can't say the name, but did this make you think of a friend of ours that had a very similar situation?
Yes, it did.
And it made me even more mad. It was infuriating. She would lock him out of the house, and he wasn't allowed to come back home until she whistled out the window that he was allowed to come back in the house. So he would have to be outside
while he was
all
being
day long.
beaten outside.
Yeah, it was just intense, and specifically by one big kid. So it was basically kind of like a Karate Kid story in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the worst part, outside of the physical abuse and keeping him outside of the house, was the emotional and psychological abuse of basically trying to erase his culture by saying, you can't speak Chinese, we can't eat Chinese food, we can do nothing. And it's absolutely brutal. Just trying to erase a child's culture like that when they're a kid. And even you can't practice Chinese in the bathroom. If I hear you doing it, you're going to be in trouble. It's just depraved.
The stepmother in this story sounds the worst. And that's the thing, is you have to feel for this kid. He was clearly traumatized and then just abandoned essentially. And so he's getting beat up constantly. And at one point, just I guess somebody that kind of knew his family was just around recommended that he go to the YMCA and take some boxing classes. And that was the turn. That was the turn for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because the guy saw him get beat up so many times, so he's went to the dad. He knocked on the door and told the dad, "Hey, if you don't let your kid learn how to fight, he's gonna get killed. He's gonna get killed in the streets because he is always getting his butt whipped." And it was kind of comical in a way how inept this little kid was. It even says he was 7, but he looked like he was 5. But he acted like he was 3.
Yeah.
He says that. So he was physically small. He didn't speak English very well at all, which, by the way, if this was him telling the story, which I believe it was, he speaks amazing English now.
Yeah, he's fluent now, for sure.
He's written 9 books. So this is based off of a book he wrote in 91, I think.
Yeah, and I can see why. And I will say this, when someone goes through, and we've talked about this, and there's the whole Malcolm Gladwell thing that we've talked about as well with Outliers, but I feel like there are people that have come through really, really, really bad scenarios like this and have fought very difficultly and hard to get out of it. And this is one of those stories. Now he's a motivational speaker and author, and it's amazing.
Yeah. So he starts boxing training. A coach really relates to him, even though he's terrified of the whole situation. They start feeding him and doing the things his parents should have done. And they start teaching him how to fight. And he starts to find his place and his stride a little bit of confidence. And
I love the first time they put him in the ring and the bell rang, and he literally just jumped out of the ring and ran into a wall and knocked himself out.
That's what I was saying. It was kind of comical how inept he was at fighting at first.
Yeah, no, it's a very fun story to listen to him tell, because now you can hear the end. You know, like it is a sad story, but you know that the ending is better than the beginning. So it makes it so that like kind of you're following this kid who just should not have been exposed to everything that he was exposed to. And yeah, even how his stepmother like revealed that his mom has died was just like the worst. Like she is the worst person. Everything about what she did was like, how are you like this?
Yeah, I think that if I were to hear any like really bad emotions in his voice, I would have just started bawling because it was such a horrible story. Luckily, it sounds like he's really gotten through it well, but that part was like, oh, it was just horrible. Because he even said, he's like, she knew this basically from the beginning, and she was waiting for the exact moment where she wanted to break me and kind of like destroy my world. And she found it, and then she just like, your mom's dead. You know, she even had his sister tell him.
Yeah.
It was so
and it
sad.
was and it was when he was starting to make progress and started to get his feet underneath him, she basically just kicked his feet out from underneath him. And he said like even after that he spiraled back into depression. And it took kind of the boxing coaches to force him out of it, to get him back on his feet, to start moving forward again, and said, hey, you need a victory. And I just love how this, like, again, just amazing storytelling here, where he conquered his personal kind of self-doubt. He physically fought and conquered the bully, and then he verbally conquered his stepmother and said, I don't know why you're bullying me, but you're not going to bully me anymore.
Yeah. So you're not my mom, and you're not going to bully me anymore.
No, and it sounded like he summoned all his strength by thinking about his mom in that moment when he like fights the bully, you know. So it really is, it's just a great storytelling. It's
And I love that it subverts the cliche, like, oh, he's going to go be a boxer, he's going to get strong, and then he's going to use his strength to win. It wasn't about the boxing or being strong, it was about the emotional strength
Mm-hmm.
and the mental fortitude. That's what won both of those victories for him.
yeah, it was about a kid who should not have gone through anything that he had to go through, and it made him strong.
But overall, I mean, it was an amazing episode. I get why Glenn Washington wanted to recommend it. Did we mention that Glenn Washington recommended this episode? Because he did. I just wanted to say that again. But no, honestly, I did feel honored, and it meant a lot to me that he took the time to answer us, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that did not.
Yeah, no, it was
But,
really nice of him to do that.
We really appreciate it, and
And we're huge fans of Snap Judgment.
yep. So, Zach, I believe that you have the audio for our recommendation for this week.
I do. So we reached out to another one of the Podfix shows. This one is called It's Not Rocket Surgery, a really awesome show that is both a podcast and on the radio in Australia. And Vlado is a lot of times hanging out in our chat, and he's in the Podcast Discovery Club, so we reached out so we
Super
could get
nice guy.
we could get a review from him. So this is his recommendation for next week.
Good day, guys. It's Vlado from It's Not Rocket Surgery, giving you a review on In Machines We Trust, a
not
new
gonna hear this,
podcast I discovered just the other day, and it's brand new. It came out on the 12th of August. Comes via the MIT Technology Review. The creator is Jennifer Strong, known for her stuff that she's done on Future of Everything, a Wall Street Journal podcast. This is a 4-episode podcast series about the use and misuse of artificial intelligence, predominantly in the facial recognition area, and how it's being used already by law enforcement and companies and social media. It's extremely well written podcast. Production values are what you'd expect of MIT from somebody who works for the Wall Street Journal and their podcasts. Very informative, easy to listen to. 4 20-minute episodes that looks into, as I said, the artificial intelligence use of facial recognition, and some interesting stories of how it's affecting people's lives already. Quite insightful, quite scary in some instances, but yeah, you'll definitely learn a lot from these 80 minutes of podcasting. Yeah, so the first episode goes into when artificial intelligence gets it wrong. So it looks at a case study where somebody's falsely accused of robbery and law enforcement misusing it. So and the follow up, and it just goes further in depth with the episodes 2, 3, and 4. Land of a Billion Faces. What happens in Vegas is captured on camera, and who owns your face. So if you've got 80 minutes and you're interested in artificial intelligence, technology, privacy, law enforcement, social media, all those sort of things, well worth checking out In Machines We Trust.
So yeah, thanks so much, Vlado, for recommending In Machines We Trust. He recommended all 4 so that we could essentially talk about 80 minutes of podcast. That's not too bad, but it's an awesome idea to try and explore a technology that it's kind of on the rise. We're seeing how it can be used in a lot of different ways, and with that comes the ways it should not be used. So it should be really cool to check out the recommendation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited and also terrified because I feel like this is one of those things that I'm going to be like, I kind of wish I didn't know this.
Sure.
Because now I'm going to see it everywhere and it's going to bother me. But it's also probably better to know and be aware.
I agree.
Well, Josh, thank you for being our guest host on our 100-ish celebration. You were one of the OGs, and we miss you.
I would like you to call me your ghost from now on, the portmanteau of guest host. Ghost.
Okay.
Sure.
You are our ghost.
Yeah, you can be the
Pods Past.
ghost. But yeah, that's all for this week. And remember,
there's always more to discover.
Yeah.
I didn't mess it up.
Nope.
You didn't. That's kind of our new thing.
It is. We've been messing it up like the past 3 weeks.
I swear we haven't been planning it. It's just been happening.
Okay.
So
Round 1 done.
I have my 2 Todd's topics. Do you guys have your 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
I put mine in the sliggity slack.
Okay, I'll throw
All right.
mine in there.
Let me make the format, and then let's go take a quick bio, and then we'll come back and start the recording. All right, Josh, I will let you go first. What's your first one?
Let's do desk ergonomics.
I already have a sense of why you investigated this.
Zach?
Roanoke.
I used to go there to watch rated R movies when I lived in Virginia.
Okay.
Because I went to Liberty University and you weren't allowed to, so we had to drive an hour and a half away.
I forgot they had that. Where you
Back
couldn't
your
watch
boy.
R-rated movies.
I did hear about my boy. I never liked that guy, so he's not my boy. But yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, Jerry.
Yeah. Good old Jerry's in trouble.
Oh, at least he went out with grace by resigning. Oh, wait. Then he came back and said, no, I'm not resigning. And they forced him out.
You gotta prank them a little bit. You gotta be like, oh, I'll take the easy way out. Never mind. I went the hard way.
All right, and back to you, Josh. Actually, no, this is where we'll put movie.
Robbie's.
Yeah, Robbie. Okay, we'll do with Robbie's first. Okay. Now, Josh.
So would you guys rather hear about a coffee alternative made from cocoa beans, or would you rather hear about a note-taking software?
Coffee beans.
I kind of am curious about cocoa coffee,
All right.
but you can have the other one as an alternate. If we want to pepper in another one, we can.
The other one is crazy just from personal, like, it's wild. It's basically you create like your own Wikipedia of your notes. And anytime you're typing a note, if you do double brackets on any term, it'll create a new page for it. And so if you're typing something and you keep typing, say, Quentin Tarantino, I double bracket it every time, or I double bracket it the first time, then anytime I ever type Quentin Tarantino in any of my other note pages, it links back to that one. So you can kind of click through and it organizes your notes in this giant web.
And it's like
It's crazy.
a notepad application. Like it has its own application where you do all this.
Yes.
Interesting.
That does sound cool, and I do want to know about that. So you have to come back next week and tell us about it.
Yeah, because I want to start writing just stuff more. I don't know what kind of writing it is, but I want to just start because I have lots of ideas and think about a lot of things, and I want to just start cataloging it.
No, I've had a problem with that too because I can't tell you how many random pieces of scrap paper and notebooks I have around that if I went and looked through them, there's random ideas on them. So if I could find a way to better organize that. But I mean, honestly, we talked about how Robert Rodriguez does it, right? Have you read about his journaling?
Yes, he journals like everything,
Like a
detailed every day.
maniac. Like
Yeah.
literally timestamps videos that he's taken and like puts it in his journal. So he was talking to Quentin Tarantino at one point, and Quentin was like, "Oh, I think we were talking about this at some point." He's like, "Hold on a second." And he went and looked in his journal, found the video of that conversation, and went and showed him the video. Just because he takes that detailed of notes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is insane.
Speaking of, Danny Trejo has a Animal Crossing island that he does tours of that you can watch.
Trejo,
I would love to watch that.
pendejo.
No, I
Okay,
love that guy.
One of the things I was going to mention, but I don't know if it was relevant to the podcast, was I loved his Mexican accent. It was
Cholo
so
accent.
good. Yeah, it was so good.
Yep.
He didn't do it too thick, but then he would do the words, like
Yeah.
your hijo, and
Right.
yeah. Zach, what is your next one?
Just call it smartphone. I don't know what it means.
Simone.
What's up with you in the portmanteau right now?
That's always been his thing, hasn't it?
Has it?
I do overutilize portmanteaus.
Florida beach penguins. All right.
All right. So time for a quick break.
Beach penguin sounds like Florida beach penguin sounds like a slur against snowbirds. All these
Florida beach
Florida
penguin.
penguins.
You're that are the best biker gang that has ever existed.
Hey, we're the Florida beach penguins. Get off our beach.
Maybe because, like, what are beach bikers? Yeah, no. I don't know. All right, so
They're
Eric-
bikers that just ride those bikes with like really fat wheels.
the
so
giant tires
sand.
on the sand? Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah.
So,
let's take a quick
How do we
break.
go do this and come back? I need to close Zencaster.
No, you don't
No,
need to do
No,
anything.
Leave
Do
Zencaster
not-
open.
Leave
Do
it.
not close nothing.
Yeah, leave it all open. I'm going to go to a BRB screen. We're all
Right.
going to grab a beverage, bio, whatever we need. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Everybody who's watching, thank you so much for checking out the stream. We really appreciate it, and we will be right back. So it is Zach and And we're back to talk
We
about
are back.
other discoveries throughout the week. Once again, we have Josh joining us for a celebration of some number of episodes that we have. And now we're going to talk about everything else we discovered throughout the week.
Todd's.
All right. Welcome to the Other Discovery Show, the podcast that's not about podcasts. It's the bonus show from the Podcast Discovery Show, where we talk about all the other things that we discovered this week. I'm Kirk.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Josh.
Oh, he's here. The voice from the heavens has arrived.
The voice from the heavens. He's going to he's going to quote you saying that, I'm sure.
That's how I like to be introduced on every meeting that I've ever been in. So thank you for the.
Can I be your herald? Will you pay me to be your herald from now on?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you think they would respond to that if you had like a herald for a meeting?
You know, I just discovered that I want a herald, so that's one of the best things I've ever heard.
I'm now entering this Zoom call, the voice from the heavens.
You got to do more. You got to get like 6 or 7 things. You need like.
You got to rattle them off.
So I've got to do like a Knight's Tale, like long.
Yes. That's what, yeah, he was a herald. He was like the old school hype man.
No.
All right, well, I'm not coming back.
Well, I'm never coming back then.
I quit again.
You did this to yourself.
I mean, I would have stayed if you had heralded me.
If I could just tell you how many times I've heard that.
I don't even know what that means, but I feel uncomfortable. Oh yeah.
Speaking of feeling uncomfortable, guys, I've got a discovery for you guys. Desk ergonomics. So, I realized working at home that I'm sitting at my desk for a lot more hours than I was when I worked in an office because I'd be going on meetings and getting up and walking around. But working at home, I'll literally sit at my desk for a lot of the day. And so I started to get a lot of pain in like my upper back and shoulders. And I kept doing like stretches and trying to like identify like how to stretch it out. And I'm like, well, what's causing this? And I started looking at my desk ergonomics and I'm like, I found it. Here's the issue. And so my desk height, I think my body is shaped weird because I have a standard size desk and a standard size desk chair, and my elbows sit farther down than they should to be able to comfortably use my desk. So I was shrugging my shoulders up to be able to have my elbows parallel to the height of my desk. And so that's what was causing all of my upper back pain is while I was working, I was just basically constantly shrugging my shoulders up and probably hunched forward some as well. And so I said, okay, how do I fix this? I said, I need to get my mouse and keyboard so that I can rest my elbows at my side naturally without shrugging my shoulders. And my arms need to go straight and be able to touch my keyboard and mouse. That's the key kind of hand, elbow, arm positioning for desk ergonomics. The other pieces are you want your back to be at like 90 to 110 degrees angle from your hips. And then the other thing is you want your monitor, you want the top 25% of your monitor to be at eye level. So you're able to kind of sit in a neutral position, looking more or less straight forward, and have your everything kind of just resting nicely. And if you have to like lean forward or if you're like hunched over or any of those different things, then over time it's going to start giving you knots and things are going to cramp up and you can get joint issues and all kinds of stuff. So one of the first things I was looking at is like, okay, how do I get my elbows level? And this is what took me down a journey, and I think this is where the real discovery is because desk ergonomics, everyone's heard of it. But I said, okay, how do I get my mouse and keyboard where they need to be? I said, okay, option one is I can raise my height of my chair, but it was already at maximum height and it wasn't high enough. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So I can lower my keyboard and mouse. But I have this massive, I got one of those massive mouse pads that covers like most of your desk.
That's what I got too.
And so I realized there's no keyboard trays that are going to give me enough room that I could like play games and do different stuff like that and use this large mouse pad unless I made a custom one. So I looked into custom keyboard trays and like potentially building one and all that. And then I said, okay, let me look at desks. So I started looking at desk. My desk is standard height. There's not many desks that are shorter than my desk. So I was like, all right, well, that's going to be a pain to try and figure out. There's no cheap or easy way to do that. So I said, all right, let me look at the chair again. What can I do? They have bigger wheels you can get that'll raise it by an inch or two. I said, that may not be enough, and I don't want to spend $40 on rollerblade wheels for my desk chair, and it may not solve my problem. So I said, what else can I do? Apparently, and here's the discovery, the hydraulic press.
There's a discovery here somewhere.
Yeah, have
The
you not been
hydraulic-
learning? Have you
the
not checked your
hydraulic
ergonomics?
press.
I've definitely learned Josh's ergonomic issues.
No,
with his
have you not
desk.
checked your ergonomics? How's your desk ergonomics?
It's all right.
So the hydraulic thing that goes up and down on your chair is standard. Most office chairs use the same size kind of hydraulic gas press. And so you can buy new ones that are longer and have longer reach on them. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to do that. So I bought one and I watch YouTube videos. First, I watch YouTube videos on how hard it is to change it. And they just grab a wrench and they twist it and it pops right out. I was like, great, this will be easy. Nope. Came in the mail the other day and went to twist mine off. I mean, full body weight on a wrench trying to twist this thing, wasn't even budging. Rubber mallet beat the devil out of it. Did not even twitch. And it was both the part where it stuck into my chair and the part where it stuck into the part that has the wheels, the bottom part of the chair. So it was both ends of it were completely seized up and stuck. So I had my wife get me, I just texted her in the middle of the day, hey, can you bring me home a pipe wrench?
Yep. It's a good idea.
Where did she get a pipe wrench?
Home Depot.
Pipe wrench
Oh.
store.
It's like a Mario wrench.
You know, we have plenty of them at work. I was just saying, it sounded like you're like, hey, can you bring me a pipe wrench from your school, please?
No, from Home Depot.
It's a disciplinary thing for teachers.
So I had her bring me home a pipe wrench, thinking that would solve my problems. It didn't initially. So basically what I ended up having to do is spray it with WD-40, wait 15 minutes, beat the devil out of it with a rubber mallet. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys have recently done this, but like literally just full force, just bashing something with a hammer is cathartic in some ways.
We
But-
kind of do that regularly
Mhm.
at work.
So, I mean, it was like an hour and a half of, probably hour and a half, 2 hours of me just absolutely bashing this thing with the rubber mallet, spraying it with WD-40, grabbing a wrench, cranking on it. I had to have Kim come in and hold the chair while I was full force, like twerking on the while I was full force torquing
Yes.
on the wrench.
It's
and
an
then it
image.
finally budged.
It's definitely an image you can't escape.
So what I'm hearing is that Josh was twerking on a wrench, beating the devil out of it, so that he could put on his extender. is
Exactly.
what I'm hearing out of
And-
all of this. That's
And
what
I
got.
got it. I got it out, and I got the new one installed. Popped right in, and I can go. My desk chair can go up like an extra like 1.5 or 2 feet higher than it needs to now.
2 feet. So what, you can like tower above your desk.
I mean, it can go way up, but
Okay,
it's only. And I would show you, but it's
I
only
feel like-
95% correctly installed. So if I need to raise
Wait.
or lower. If I need to raise or lower my desk chair, the little nubbin at the top that normally presses,
Nubbin?
it's something about how I set it up. The lever on the chair doesn't press it down hard enough to make
Everything
it move
about
up and
this
down.
story makes me feel uncomfortable.
And so I have to stick a ruler in the back of it above the nubbin and press on the ruler and hit the lever at the same time to make my chair go up or down. So it's set in the right position and I don't need to move it. So I would show you how tall it goes, but it's absurdly tall, like bar stool height.
So like you would be out of frame right now.
Yes. Yeah.
I want
would
that
just
just
be a-
for that.
It would just be a crotch shot.
No,
Just-
okay. If you didn't
straight.
have to, if you didn't have to like finagle your, what are you calling it, a muggin?
Your
Nubbin.
his nubbin.
Nubbin. If you didn't have to finagle your nubbin,
God,
then
I hate this.
it would be an amazing way to enter the shot. So like for the stream, that's why I want it, because I want to
Yeah,
slowly descend
slowly
into
descend,
frame
yeah.
for the beginning of every stream.
Really would be amazing.
No, I've
voice from the heavens
no, but
descending.
I've definitely thought about like it, and it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, you spend a lot more time since you can't go out and do anything. Essentially, you spend a lot more time in computer chairs, and it makes me really want a new computer chair, because I feel like, yeah, this one is, I think, too small for me in basically every way possible. So I think I need to get
Move
a
around
new
a
one.
little bit. See if we can hear it. Is it
Oh,
the
you
noisy
can't.
one?
Oh, you can't hear it.
I also had to WD-40 my chair for that reason, because I was on Zoom calls at work and it was like anytime I
hear it.
move.
I hear.
Yep. WD-40 will fix that right up, Zach.
Yeah, I got some. It's like a silicone spray that it's better with metal on metal. So I should
Nice.
just lube it
If that's
up.
what- if that's what you're into.
Dang it, guys.
What?
How did explore our ergonomics become more disturbing than explore our bodies?
How is that disturbing? I think you need
Man.
to get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah,
I-
that's it. That's it.
I forgot I was doing Explore Our Bodies. I'll have to bring that back next time I come on.
No, we got mentioned on another show recently about that.
Really?
Did we?
Yeah. No, Keith was telling Gravity Beard about our segment of Explore Our Bodies.
Which one was their favorite? Probably the butt.
I'm sure it was
I
the
don't
butt.
know.
That was definitely the hardest one to record. And that's the one. Wasn't that the one that Keith asked us to send him the audio for the mixtape? Was the butt?
Yeah, I believe so. That's what went on our Pod Network mixtape.
Well, yeah, I know a lot more about desk ergonomics, and that's also something I'm interested in. I'm gonna go look at chairs soon.
And the crazy thing was, I was looking for like, how do I make my chair go higher? And everyone's like, you can get wheels that'll add an inch. I was like, I want more than an inch. I'm talking about real high. So it took me a significant amount of research and thought and work to get this done. So it was pretty significant. I hope it helps someone else out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm gonna look into maybe not that. Actually, maybe that and a new chair, because I would descend onto every episode I do of this, where I start, where it's just you're seeing just the logo of my shirt.
Hey, are you in the market for a Herald?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Okay. All right. I'll have to come up with I'll make a good list, and from now on, when you descend, I'll herald you into the podcast.
Perfect. Sounds like the perfect entry into a show.
Descending from his place on the mountain, the one, the only.
Yeah, pretty much. So I saw this article the other day. Are you guys familiar with Roanoke? Do you remember in like middle school when you learn about this? The
Yep.
mysteriously vanishing colony?
I
So
feel
I-
like that's a classic middle school history story.
It definitely
There's a
is.
colony that just disappeared and no one knows what happened.
And here's
And
the
they
best
tell you
thing.
like during Halloween time because it's a little bit spooky, and so they're like, "Hey, it's Halloween."
Well, I hope you're ready for that to all be ruined, because somebody has an explanation that's not at all spooky. So, for a long time, and this was all in the 1500s, which is why it's like steeped in mythology at this point. But there is an author named Scott Dawson who has solved the mystery. He has an explanation, and he says that they were never lost. It was made up, and the mystery is over. So basically, there was a local tribe of native peoples nearby where this colony was at. And the short story of it is they went and lived with that tribe. They abandoned their little colony that they had set up because they were having trouble surviving, and just they made friends with the local population, and they left it and they joined their colony. So this is all based off of, there was an archaeological society that began to try to find some evidence of this happening. And they found thousands of artifacts 4 to 6 feet below the surface that show a mix of English and Indian life. Parts of swords and guns that are in the same layer of soil as Indian pottery and arrowheads. And he said in a spot the size of 2 parking spaces, we could find 10,000 pieces of just evidence and things like that. And not only did they find just like the mixture of the two, they also found things that were like changed to fit it better. So they took like their jewelry and they would make it into something else when they went to the other tribe. They would take guns and break them down and use the metal. And they found things that were essentially not just it was left here, but more it was used in the new society that they joined. So there was literally I think the thing that we all always heard, the thing that made it a little creepy, is there was the tree that just said Croatoan on it, you know? But that is literally a tribe that was also on the Hatteras Island. They thrived once they left because the tribe was well established. They'd been there for a long time. This wasn't a colony for them. This was life. This was where they lived. This was where they were born. This is their entire life. So once they left and settled with the native population, they thrived, they ate well, they had mixed families and endured for generations. And then more than a century later, John Lawson, an explorer, found natives with blue eyes who recounted they had ancestors who could speak out of a book. So like there's all this kind of weird mythology then within them of ancestors who were different, you know, that had different skill sets and looked different than their culture did. So they did things like adapt their earrings into fish hooks, and they were tapping trees with their gun barrels. They would sharpen them, and so they would just tap trees. And so basically it was just really funny to see that kind of we all had this, at least I did, this idea of like, oh, it's this spooky, mysterious thing. Where did they all go? But they literally left a sign saying where they went. They said like, hey, we went with the tribe. We're not here. And then I don't know if they weren't really concerned about where they are. They're like, I don't know what that word means, but they're dead. I don't know exactly how the thought process went that turned it into all of that. But this guy wrote a really cool article about how it kind of was a much happier story than what we were always told to believe in middle school.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I think there was even a episode of Lore that talked about, you know, the lore behind that. And I think that's where I learned the true story as well, because he told the true story of what actually happened, or what most likely happened, at least. So I found an article today about the youngest British soldier in World War I. He was 12 years old, and he fought in the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So apparently this was a thing that would happen a lot. A lot of young kids would fake their age, but this kid was one of the youngest ones that they ever found out. It says he was sent to the front lines, and his actual age was not found out until he began crying during heavy shelling and was taken before an officer of his regiment to reveal his young age.
I'm just saying, a 12-year-old, though, come on. Like, oh, I thought that dude was 30, said no one ever. Like,
I think they were recruiting people at 16.
They were,
so.
Yeah. No, and I heard a really interesting bonus one. I'm not trying to sidetrack you. They made the movie Apocalypse Now about Vietnam, and that was another one where some people would lie, and there was really young kids over in Vietnam. But when they shot the movie Apocalypse Now, they wanted young kids in it, and Lawrence Fishburne's in it as like an 18-year-old, I think is the premise. But Lawrence Fishburne lied about his age and was actually 14 when he shot the movie.
It's very meta.
That is very meta. This kid, Sidney Lewis, was a different kid, which was one of the youngest as well. He fought in the Battle of Somme as well. He fought in the Battle of Devil Wood, which saw some of the worst casualties during that battle. He got a victory medal and a British War Medal. And then he re-enlisted to go to another war later on. It's just, I don't know. I keep thinking, because this is like 2 years older than my daughter. It feels like, how the hell did this kid get on the front lines of one of the bloodiest wars of all time? And how did he get through it? Because he got through, like, I think 2 or 3 different wars that he went through. Because he apparently loved going to war, and he just kept going to different ones.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's
eventually he was old enough.
Yeah, eventually you could get in there for real.
it's very different times. People used to get married at like 14, 15, 16 years old. Like it's our kids grow up a lot slower and have more of a childhood and a ramp up to growing up to adult life now. Which, I mean, I think it's good because we can kind of savor that childhood and them being young and somewhat innocent, and having that kind of freedom of being a child, and allowing them to really relish in that instead of saying, all right, you're 9, go chop wood.
This is one of those, one of those stories where you kind of realize things kind of suck right now, but they were way worse before.
Yeah.
And they could be way worse. It even talks about the British Army recruited 250,000 boys under 18 during World War One. This was in a BBC documentary that they did in 2014. It's just
a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's
a lot of boys.
A lot of little boys.
It's just
with guns. Scary.
It's just weird to think about times when there was a world war because people were literally afraid that somebody was going to take over and essentially extinguish any other way of life. So rules did not apply.
Yeah.
On basically anything. Yeah. Well, speaking of the British Isles, just the other day,
things right across the pond.
We talked to Robbie and Giles from the Filmmakers podcast for a thing we're doing for Podfix, and we asked them to give us a couple movie discoveries that we could play on the other Discovery show.
We told them, hey guys, we have a movie correspondent, but we haven't got any responses from him lately, so do you have anything for us? And so we got something for him.
How can you call him out like that? That's so mean.
No, they did too. Is that part of this clip? Mm-mm. Dang it. We need that special sound clip that you'll hear one day, but apparently not yet.
It'll be next week.
Teaser.
But yeah, so we asked him for a movie recommendation, and here it is.
Hi, this is Robbie from the Filmmakers podcast, and Zach and Kirk asked us to give some deep cut film recommendations. So if you haven't checked it out already, I highly recommend The Old Guard on Netflix, which is a new film by Gina Prince Bythewood, who is an amazing director. And the film was shot in the UK, mostly in Shepperton Studios, using a lot of nice European locations as well. And it's just a really cool modern example of a reinvention of the action genre. So I highly recommend you check that out.
Yeah, so this is called The Old Guard. I haven't ever heard of this. Have you guys?
Yes, that's the one with Charlize Theron on Netflix, right?
It is on Netflix.
I believe I think I'm thinking the right one, and I hope I'm naming the right actress.
I would look it up, but I think it's better if we just don't know. I mean, I've thought about even playing the trailer.
I'm probably going to watch it because it sounds good. It already sounds interesting.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, she has an axe and it looks awesome.
That sounds kind of like the right thing. He said it redefines the action genre, so might be the one. And yeah, if that is the one, then I have heard some good stuff about it as well. So yeah, check that out. Thanks. Huge shout out to Filmmakers Podcast. If you have any interest in making films or just like the process, it's a really, really cool show.
And they're really fun guys. Doing that interview, we picked some people that we respected but didn't know a lot about, because we know Keith, we know Paul, we know the folks at Gravity Beard, but we wanted to kind of get to know and become friends with some new people, and so we picked them. And like I said on the interview, I think we're best friends now.
Yeah, we really did have a great time.
And you're talking about knowing them in the biblical sense, correct?
Yes,
of course.
100%. That's exactly what we were looking for out of an interview.
What does that mean again, Josh?
Oh, you know. So, one of the other things every once in a while, it's frustrating, but Instagram.
Sorry, you tried to start that like 4 times.
Here, I'll redo it for you.
I have to write down an edit now.
Because you start giggling maniacally in the middle.
Instagram, It's like,
you know what really grinds my gears? Instagram.
What's the deal with Instagram?
Was that a Seinfeld impression?
Very
don't
good
know.
Seinfeld impression.
I've
It
never
was
watched.
clearly a Seinfeld impression because it was uncanny.
It was. It sounded like I was talking to Jerry Seinfeld.
I didn't know you guys
No
had
soup
him on
for
as a
you.
guest. That's a good pull.
I don't know anything about Seinfeld at all. I just know that's a thing.
It's good that you know that Seinfeld's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me try again. So, something that's frustrating and good, I think, at the same time, is that Instagram has gotten remarkably good at advertising. I don't know if you all have noticed this, that
They have.
when the ads pop up when you're on Instagram, like 60% of the time I'm like, that looks interesting, but it's an ad, so I don't want to waste my time on it. But I actually saw one the other day of it's called Zero Brew, and what it is cacao beans ground up that you brew like coffee.
Hmm.
And so I clicked on it. I was like, what is this? Because I like coffee and I like drinking like hot
Chocolate.
beverages. Yeah. And chocolate. I love chocolate. I've been on a chocolate kick too. That's a whole nother story. But so I was like, this is awesome. Superfood, which was something that I heard a couple of times recently. But on their website, they have a ton of information on here about the different things in coffee that are like what makes it good. And you get all of the natural oils and everything from the cacao beans because it's not processed. They literally just grind it up and throw it in a bag and you brew it. So you're getting like all the goodness from coffee. Whereas if you use like cocoa powder, then it's a lot more processed and some of that good stuff isn't in it anymore. And so the difference between cacao and cocoa, first of all, is cocoa is a more processed version of cacao. So once you process it down, then it becomes cocoa. So that's how you get like hot cocoa and cocoa powder and all those things. But in cacao, you've got one of the highest concentrations of antioxidants of any food in the world. You've got magnesium, which supports heart, brain, and bone health. You've got mood enhancers. So it's got
Anaphylactic shock.
Nope. It's got anandamide, serotonin, PEA, and tryptophan. PEA is also known as the love drug.
Ooh.
Anandamide is known as the bliss chemical. And serotonin is a, quote, feel-good brain chemical.
Who
Isn't
who
tryptophan
named
the
these
thing that-
chemicals?
That's what's in turkey that's supposed to make you take a nap, right?
I don't know.
It definitely is. Yes, that's what's in turkeys that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving.
It gives you the itis.
Yeah.
So it's got all these things in it, and then it also
I was
has
just saying, I looked it up because I'm like, I remember hearing about that, and it's because I remember it coming out not that long ago about the thing that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving.
And then the last thing it has in it is it has it doesn't have much caffeine. It's like mostly caffeine free, but it has theobromine, but it's basically like a longer lasting, milder energy. So they say this is all their marketing material. So I like bought this hook, line, and sinker, but I ordered it like last week and it came in today, and I brewed a couple cups and it tastes like hot cocoa. It's 0 calories except for whatever creamer and sweeteners you put into it, and it's really good. It's somewhere between like coffee and hot cocoa.
That sounds good.
It's really good, and it definitely like gives me energy. Like it gave me like the I think they call it like an exothermic reaction where you get like warm from energy. You know what I'm talking about? Where if you drink too much caffeine, you get warm.
You start sweating. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't like just purely sweaty, but it definitely like
it was a little
felt
sweaty.
like warmed up and had like some good energy from it, and definitely recommend it. It's phenomenal stuff, and they've got like pumpkin spice flavor where they have like different like flavors and stuff in them. They've got all kinds of different flavors, and they do a lot of like single origin, like they do coffee, where they source all their beans from like a certain, or I guess they're still beans. They source their beans from a certain area, so they have like single origin, like Ghana and Costa Rica and different things like that.
Yeah, cacao's really weird. It's in like a giant fleshy looking fruit. It's disturbing looking.
It is weird looking.
And Twigs, please don't bring up pumpkin spice. Josh is so into it.
He is.
I'm very
so
into it. Yeah,
that
pumpkin
PSL.
spice lattes came back this week, so I'm getting a pumpkin spice cold foam cold brew tomorrow morning.
I've never
all
been
about it.
big into it. I'm not a
I don't.
hater on it. But it is one of those things. It's like you see it around you so much that you become like the Karen. It's like no more.
I don't.
But I don't really care.
See, Kirk, I only take that. Actually, I don't take that at all from you because Christmas starts in September for you, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
We're just around the corner from Christmas, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Jenny
3
keeps
days till
telling me to bring the
Christmas.
Christmas lights out.
Kirk put his
I'm just kidding.
Christmas tree up yesterday.
Oh, I hate you all.
But yeah, no, I really want to try some of that cacao coffee. That sounds amazing.
I got a bunch of it. When I give you your vinyl holders, I'll send some along with you.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you sometime in the next week or so. So I found a smartphone, and it's not produced by any of the major manufacturers. It's by some, I think it's called Pine Phone, and it's by Pine64, who I've never heard of. But here's the thing that was weird. They have physical kill switches for the modem, the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, the microphone, the rear camera, the front camera, and the headphone jack. You can literally hard kill switch the power to any of those things. And it has normal hardware and everything. I think they're using Linux. I think a lot of people that are doing anything that's not an Android or a Mac phone, they're using Linux, you know. So I think the hardware is okay, everything like that. But the interesting thing to me was these physical kill switches, because we're starting to see people having little camera covers for their laptops and for their phones too. You know, and most phones have the ability to turn off a lot of things, but the question is it actually turned off? On this, it's a physical kill switch. The power is off to it. The power is not going to it. And my question is, would you guys be interested in that kind of functionality? Is that something you worry about with your devices?
Not in my line of work. I mean, I don't have anything there's nothing about what I do or who I am that I need that level of privacy. However, if I were in a different line of work, if I were working in some sort of intelligence agency or in cybersecurity, because those groups, there's a lot of like shenanigans, I think, in cybersecurity groups. So if you're running with those groups, I think if you go to like, I think DEF CON is like their big convention, and apparently you have to like turn your phone off when you go in there, or that you will get your phone like hacked.
I probably wouldn't even bring my phone. I'd leave it in my car.
Yeah, no, I it's funny, Zach. I've actually seen they have laptops like this too,
with kill switches.
Physical kill switches on all those same things, so you can kind of turn those things off. And I think it's very much for kind of like cybersecurity and cyber intel type of stuff. Is a lot of times when they're doing that.
No, and I mean, okay, on the less like, it's not like, oh, they're watching us to try and do something painful. I think for the vast majority, not that it makes it okay, but the vast majority of data mining right now is to try and make us spend money. So not all of it, obviously, because we've seen the stuff with Cambridge Analytica and them using essentially everything about your life on Facebook to really try to affect how you're voting and your political leanings and things like that. And that stuff's just for sale. But like, I think the vast majority is advertising. You know, it's trying to get us to buy things. And so then you have things like the Google Home stuff. You have the things like the Amazon stuff that has active listening. So you have these things that are listening to you. And I've definitely heard conspiracy theories. I kind of want to try it out, where if you start talking about a random item around these active listening devices, they'll pick it up and they'll try and sell it to you on your web browsing.
The easiest test I've seen that people do is they'll play Spanish radio next to those and see if you start getting adverts in Spanish.
So I listened to a whole episode of Reply All, and they were talking about this. And apparently there's no empirical evidence aside from just anecdotal evidence that they're listening to us all the time and then make ads based off of it, which was interesting because it was funny because Alex was the one that did all the research and stuff. And he's like, I just don't, we found nothing, and I don't think there's any. And no one believed him. Nobody. And they got all of these people that would call in and PJ's like, well, convince one person. And he couldn't convince one person that Facebook and Instagram and all these places were not listening to them all the time.
No, and that's what I'm saying. We make it easier than that because Facebook they don't have to listen to you through our devices. They literally can look at your web history. They advertise to you based on what your web searches are. And that's what I'm saying is instead of it being some kind of ultra malicious thing where they're trying to do weird kind of high level destroy your life things, I think they're trying to make people spend money for the vast majority of the time and the vast majority of what they're doing. So yeah, I don't necessarily need physical kill switches, but it'd be cool if every phone had it so I could just do it.
Yeah.
It is interesting that it exists. Because there are, I will say, listening to shows like Reply All, it made me realize how easy it is. Very easy to hack all of your information.
Mm-hmm.
It's too easy to the point where it is very scary if you actually learn about it and think about it, because it can happen very easily. But luckily for us, we're just regular folks that no one really wants to.
They wouldn't really benefit,
but they could if they
could.
wanted to, and that's what's scary.
You can go online and in 5 to 10 minutes find a setup to do Wi-Fi spoofing. So you can go to a coffee shop and set up a fake Wi-Fi that looks like the Starbucks Wi-Fi, have people connect to it, and then you have all of their traffic and all of their stuff that they're sending is directly into your database.
I'm always paranoid connecting to public Wi-Fi networks for sure.
That's why you got to use a VPN. So a VPN basically sends encrypted stuff to that. So all that they would get if they were doing that is encrypted data, and then it's decrypted on the other end, and then it sends back encrypted stuff and then decrypted on your device. So that's why VPNs are really critical, and a lot of phones have built-in VPNs to them now, so you can do some of that stuff without worrying.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So on a completely different note, I read this article, and I had heard about this guy, but I don't think we ever talked about him on the show. It's a Florida man story, and this guy made a hoax that was a big deal in Florida. I had never heard of it, but apparently it was a big deal for decades. And it was right here in Clearwater. He just passed away, and that's kind of where the story came out, that he was the one that did it. But the story, his last name was Signorini. His legacy dates back to February 1948, when Clearwater was tiny, only had 15,000 people, and it wasn't like a giant tourist trap like it is now. But one morning, a beachgoer discovered strange three-toed footprints in the sand. They waded ashore, continued 2 miles through the dunes, and then disappeared back into the surf. The prints were huge, 14 inches long and 11 inches wide. Whatever left them appeared to have a stride of 4 to 6 feet, long, or distant from each other.
Long.
Soon, the mysterious tracks, basically they were all over the Gulf Coast, like Honeymoon Island, St. Pete Beach, all up and down the Gulf Coast of Florida, to the point where they did an article in Time magazine about this phenomenon, and they said, this is an excerpt from that. Are the tracks really those of some weird, gigantic animal, a water-dwelling monstrosity that time forgot? That's from the Time article. The public reaction was split between door barricading panic and puzzled skepticism, because people.
Yep.
But basically, they even interviewed scientists and stuff, and it came down, and some of them believed it, that there was a species of giant penguin that was living in Florida, and it was very akin to the Loch Ness Monster and stuff like that. It got a big deal for a good bit. and then they went away for a long time, and they came back, which was even funnier because he would do it again. But he went through so much effort to do this prank, and he never came forward for a very long time. And he would walk miles in these giant. He made them at home. They were like lead feet, like look like a penguin with like get the what's the sneakers that like skateboarders and stuff use?
Vans.
Yeah, they look like old Vans, like attached to the top of them. But when he would do it, he would like jump from one foot to the other, so it would look like it had this long stride. He would do that for miles.
Why?
Because this dude was a prankster. It was just, it's a great story. I'm gonna link the article real quick so that everybody that's in chat
Ridiculous.
can see it. But
I
Florida
mean,
man, only in Florida, man.
I mean that's amazing commitment. Like
It
that
really is.
I mean, if you're gonna go in. Like that's phenomenal. I respect that and I love it.
It was great.
Yeah, you're right. It is definitely a commitment to a ridiculous prank. But I think that if people are like, oh, there's giant 12-foot tall penguins, I'd be like, that seems weird. Seems weird. But what can you do? But yeah, that's all the random things we've discovered throughout the week. If you have anything you've discovered throughout the week, get in touch with us and let us know what it is. We have a podcast or a Facebook
We have
group.
a podcast.
I was going to say a podcast group. We have a Facebook group called the Podcast Discovery Club where you could just share this stuff all the time. Kirk is always sharing cool stuff on there. Keith, a lot of the people we've mentioned in this episode are sharing cool stuff on there. It's a great way to discover new things. You can follow us on Twitter, on our YouTube, on Twitch, and if you could hit follow on whichever of these things you're watching on, we would greatly appreciate it. It helps out the show a lot.
Yeah, we are trying to get up to 50 followers over on Twitch so that we can be affiliate on there and, make some strides in that direction. So if you can, just hit that follow button. Doesn't cost a dime, but we'd really appreciate it. It'd mean the world to us.
So yeah, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye. All right. We are done recording podcasts.
So everybody that's watching the stream, thanks so much for checking it out. We are about to switch over. We will try a new way of making it as seamless as possible so that it'll just be here because we're about to play some video games. And I think if we have a group over in Twigs' Discord.
Hey,
Twigs.
I accidentally closed Zencaster. It was already done, but now I can't hear anybody.
I can close mine. It automatically uploaded to you, right?
Yeah, no, mine is already done.
You already
Does
done?
it
All right,
automatically
I'll close
upload to you though?
I was just saying. Yeah, no, I got everybody's.
Sweet.
So Twigs,
Everybody's tracks.
it's time for Among Us, is what me and Kirk were thinking. Josh, did you get this the other day?
Yeah.
Now everyone's on board. Adam's been waiting. I think Bunny Cat's going to jump in. We got a few people going to be jumping in tonight, so it's going to be a good party on there.
Yeah, so we're going to have a large group of us play Among Us, and it'll still be on this channel. We're going to switch over, so Kirk will be streaming it, and we're going to be right back. But seriously, thank you so much for checking it out, and if you wouldn't mind hitting follow, we would really appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna leave Skype and go on